You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I think we beat the young guys up over the week to understand what type of level of play we need from them and the expectation playing playoff football in Arrowhead, Giha, wherever stadium. Oh, it's not Giha? Oh, excuse me. My apologies. It's okay. Giha.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. Check that. The next 3 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about in a shorter amount of time because coming up at 1 o'clock, we've got pregame for the Music City Bowl, the Overrated Bowl. The Overrated City Bowl, sorry about that. Not the Overrated Bowl, the Overrated City Bowl, the Music City Bowl, brought to you by Overrated. Not the guaranteed rate, the overrate. It is Mizzou and Iowa on our trip back yesterday, driving back home. We stopped in Mount Vernon, money earning, and a little bathroom break, a little Starbucks, a little recharge the battery, right? And there was a group of about 6 or 7 older gentlemen in the 60s, 70s, decked head to toe Mizzou. We were crossing paths. They were heading to Nashville. Nice. We were driving to Kansas City, obviously, driving home. And so my son was the one. My son went up and was like, hey, MIZ. And they turned around and looked down and like, oh, ZOU, little man.
That's so fun. Have you been to a bowl
Never been
game?
To a bowl game.
That is, I know I've already gotten you off topic.
I've never been to a bowl game that a team I was rooting for was in. I've covered the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans when Louisville played Florida.
Sure.
But like going to a bowl game where I'm there just rooting on my team, no, I've never gone to it.
Highly recommend it. And I don't, Dylan,
I bet it's fun.
Dylan, have you gone and done that?
Have you gone to a KU bowl game? You didn't go down to the Orange Bowl? You didn't go. You didn't make the trip.
There wasn't a lot to choose from.
Yeah, but I was saying, did you go to the KU bowl game?
Oh, stop.
No, I haven't gone to the ones that have been recent. But I was in Florida during the Orange Bowl. We were watching it at the ESPN.
But you didn't make it down
spot,
to.
But no, we didn't go to that.
What part of Florida were you
at? Orlando. We were at the Disney boardwalk watching at the ESPN thing. So.
Hanging with Mickey and Minnie.
That's right. Heck yeah,
you're
dude.
more of a Donald guy, I feel like. I'm a big Donald Duck guy.
Sure. I mean,
here's the thing. No, he's not a Donald Duck because Donald Duck is always woe is me. Donald Duck is why is this happening to me? Everybody else is like positive, and Donald Duck is like, oh, I'm the one that gets picked on all the time. Oh, it's a woe is me. My life sucks. I'm somehow this weird looking duck, yet I got Daisy. Yet my life is terrible. To hell with Donald Duck. Okay, by the way, let's just do this. Donald Duck.
That's closer than I thought.
Yeah. How about? All right, maybe you are Donald. You're not Donald Duck. You are not Donald Duck. You might be Goofy. Nah, Sterling's Goofy.
I was saying, I feel like I'm Goofy. The Goofy
Sterling's
movie.
Goofy.
The Goofy movie slaps, by the way.
But
point remains.
Goofy would never say slaps. You're no longer Goofy.
The bowl game experience go to it. K-State fans, I'm sure a lot have gone to that. But because I went to Memphis, and it was around this time too. You go for New Year's Eve, you make it a long trip, and there's so many fans of the team. Right, so we went to that when they played Oklahoma State. Actually, sorry, Mick. Actually, now why am I saying sorry?
Yeah, why are you saying sorry? Oklahoma State won, brother.
They won that game, but it was just such a fun experience, and so I highly recommend it. Even if it's not a bowl that you wish, again, not the college football playoffs. I get it. Nashville can be fun.
It can. Look, if you're there for a bowl game, I think it can be fun. I was in Nashville it was a few years ago. It was for my Christmas present. That my wife got me tickets to. It was the weekend where Mizzou played Vandy in Nashville and the Chiefs played the Titans in Nashville. And so it's 2 hours and 20 minutes from Louisville. Drove down there and went to the Mizzou-Vanderbilt game on Saturday. Mizzou won by 30 against Vandy. Yeah. And then stayed the night. And then my buddy who does afternoons in Nashville got us some nicer tickets to the Chiefs and Titans game, and they won that game as well. So that was fun. That was a blast. That was a weekend there in Nashville, and made the most of it. And it's by the way, I just got to tell this story real quick.
You got hit by a chair.
I did not. I didn't get hit by a chair. No,
Nice.
I did not. Get hit by a chair. 913-912-4810. Here's how the show lines up before I get into this fun story about act like you're supposed to be there, and then people will just sort of assume.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk with Cynthia Freeland today at 11:30. Typically on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock, we'll talk to Cynthia, but Wednesday is New Year's Day, so no show Wednesday. We'll talk with Cynthia today at 11:30. Field Yates at noon. Andy Reid coming up in the noon hour with his Zoom, getting ready for Week 18, game number 17, where the starters will be resting. Chiefs are 9.5-point dogs to the Denver Broncos right now. Denver is a win and in with a playoff scenario, which we'll get into here in just a little bit, and also what the game sort of means for Mizzou in the bowl game. And then we'll get into our top 5 sports moments of the year, looking back over this calendar year and the top 5 moments that we experienced in sports as we wrap up the 2024 year. And tomorrow we'll have an even shorter show. We'll be done at 11:30 tomorrow talking to Adam Teicher because KU pregame starts at 11:30 right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. But we were trying to get into a bar in Nashville, and I didn't want to pay $20 a pop. I was meeting some fraternity brothers that were down there.
What bar?
I don't even know what it was. Every single bar is $20 because, it's $20 covered because we got a band playing.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Because it sounds like the band right over there and the same band that's outside playing. Whatever. $20 a pop. And I'm like, man, I'm just going to go in and say hi for like 10 minutes, and then we're heading somewhere else to meet some other people. I'm like, I don't want to freaking pay. So my buddy in Nashville goes up, puts his business card on the desk of the people that are taking the cover, and they're like, what's this? He was like, yeah, we're in town with ESPN. We've got a party set up here. He's like, my name's Jared, and we all work with ESPN. And the lady that was standing there was like, yeah, I don't know of any party. And he turned around, he looked at me, and he goes, well, that's Jason Anderson right there. And she goes, oh, okay, go ahead. Because she had no idea who anybody was.
Sure.
But she didn't want to be the one that didn't know.
Yeah.
She didn't want to be the one that was like, oh, how do I not know that person? Of course it's that person. You wouldn't act like that if it was just some rando dude that nobody knows.
That's great.
He was so confident. Was like,
that's Dylan Michaels.
That's Dylan Michaels right there. How are you? You're not going to look. We're here for this. You're gonna be the person that doesn't let Dylan Michaels in.
I get it. You're not letting Jason in. You charge Jason.
Right.
But Dylan?
Dude,
wow.
And she just looked around. She was like, okay, that's fine. And let us all, there was like 8 of us, just let us all walk in. $20 a pop. Like, go ahead. We were there for like 10 minutes and left. But just act like you're supposed to be there. And act like you can't act like the big deal.
No.
You got to act like somebody else in the group that you're speaking for, because that person wouldn't speak for themselves because they're too damn famous. All right?
So
you're the handler for that person.
I did that where I was the handler. You met my cousin. You saw him. He's 6'10", right, at the wedding.
Oh, interesting.
My 6'10" cousin. Didn't you saw him, right, at the wedding?
Yeah,
like,
the large individual.
The very large. He's 6'10", like 2'4".
The guy that was eating peanuts off your head while you were standing getting ready to get married.
He's 6'10", 6'11".
I missed him. I couldn't see him.
I think he went tarps off, I think, at one point.
Good for
too.
him, man. So 7'2" cousin. So what did he do?
Well, when I worked for the Sixers, I had a Sixers business card. Right, so it says 76ers on it.
Right.
Dario Saric had just signed with the Sixers.
Want to pick up that name you just dropped?
What? I didn't know Dario.
Sorry.
He had just I'm getting somewhere with this.
Sorry.
He had just signed with the 76ers. I worked in sales. So what I would do is I would put my hand over where it said sales, and it would just say 76ers. The amount of times I worked at different went to bars, all that stuff, astronomical. Okay? That's not a good look for me, but it worked. Why would I pay cover when I could do that?
Right.
Smart.
Absolutely.
Okay. And got to many 21 birthday parties of Jalil Okafor, Ben Simmons, all that stuff. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
But for this particular time, they just signed Dario. We've got everyone in the casino to believe that my cousin, I told him not to speak English, right? Don't talk. He's 6'10". I said, you're Dario. You're going to be Dario for the night. We're going to have fun. And so everyone thought that was Dario Saric. People taking pictures with him. He won some money. We got a whole bunch of free stuff the whole night. And I pretend that I was like the agent and he was Dario Saric.
Nice.
It was a great time.
That's awesome. Yeah, just act like you're supposed to be there.
Act like you're supposed to be
the
there.
handler for somebody that you say is really famous, and it might work. If it doesn't, what are you going to do? Pay the cover? Okay, great. You're going to pay the cover anyway. If it does work, well, now you saved some money. Now you get more money for booze while you're in there. Good for you. Or you just don't get, have to pay a cover in an incredibly overpriced city to hear the same band that's the exact same band that's next door. That's one hit away.
They are
from
talented, though. Some of those guys are really talented.
Well, absolutely. Some of the girls are talented too. But I mean, just like it's the same band. Every single bar I go to, they sound the exact same. One of them is going to have a hit someday. I bet it'll happen. That's really cool for them. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll do that coming up in about 15 minutes or so. I just don't want to pay $20 to get into just to hear a band. You know
I
mean?
get it.
Plus, I'm not drinking either.
Yeah, that's even harder for you when you don't drink.
Because I'm like, I'm the DD, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm like, well.
Normally they let the DD.
Typically they do.
Yeah.
In college, they always did.
Yeah.
When I was a DD, they gave me free pop,
They give you free drinks. They give you free.
I got free Long Island iced teas because I was the DD.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I only had 2 of them, though, because, come on, I was driving. No, obviously. That was nice. But in Nashville, no, they're not going to give you anything for free. It's ridiculous unless you act like you're supposed to be there. So let's get into some of the playoff scenarios and what we think is going to happen for the Chiefs, because we know now the Chiefs as the number 1 seed, Buffalo is the 2 seed, and Houston's the 4 seed. We know that. 1, 2, and 4 are wrapped up. 3, 5, 6, and 7 are all still to be decided this weekend. The number 3 seed can be decided with the first game of the week on Saturday afternoon at 3:30, Baltimore and Cleveland. Baltimore's going to beat Cleveland. They're 17.5-point favorites. If they beat Cleveland, they're the 3 seed. They're the division winners.
Yes.
So I'm pretty confident Baltimore's going to take care of business.
17.5-point spread in an NFL game.
17.5. I actually like the Browns plus the points because I think if the Ravens get up by a decent amount because they have to play the first round, they'll sit their guys. They'll sit Lamar, Derrick Henry, Kyle Hamilton.
Sure.
Zay Flowers. Some of their other defensive players,
and they're still better than the Browns.
Right. But are they better than the Browns, where the Browns will then, still try to score and get some points or whatever? Or maybe the Browns just quit and they're looking for 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Oh my gosh, yes. I know DTR thinks he's an NFL quarterback. He is not.
Right, but DTR is playing for a job. There's a lot of Browns players playing for jobs on
100%. 100%. You
I kind of like the points there.
You and I differ there because
backdoor cover.
The Ravens are a team that blows teams out because they think it makes them more impressive, and it gets the national media talking about them.
Well,
Not only that,
the selection committee is about the eye test.
And I do think Lamar Jackson is trying for the MVP, so whether or not he does sit in the second half, that first half he's going to do everything he can to have as many yards and touchdowns as possible.
Yeah. No, I think that'll be for the first half, but I don't think they play Lamar Jackson in the second half if they've got like a 24-point lead. He's going to be sitting, and somebody else will come in. And I think there's a chance of a backdoor cover. So I would rather take the Browns and the points because the Ravens are going to win. But the Browns and the points. So I think Baltimore's going to win. They're the 3 seed. I think before Pittsburgh and Cincinnati kick off at 7 o'clock, we're going to know the 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm pretty positive the 4 division winners will be figured out. And then we'll just need to figure out who 5, 6, and 7 is, which is any of 5 different teams that could make the playoffs. 3 different teams can be the 7. 3 teams could be the 5, but if Baltimore wins, then they're going to be the 3. So that means 2 teams could be the 5, 2 teams can be the 6. Yeah. Chargers and Steelers ultimately is what it comes down to. Again, this is based off me assuming Baltimore wins against Cleveland. I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
I know it's any given Sunday, all that stuff, but hypothetically speaking, let's go ahead and say
Baltimore, you want to be the 3 seed or you want to be the 5 seed? All you got to do is beat a bad Cleveland team. You're at home, national TV.
I know it's divisional, all that stuff, but
it's toast. It's done.
Yeah.
So then it comes down to the 5 seed, which is Pittsburgh and the Chargers. Pittsburgh wins and Baltimore wins, then the Pittsburgh Steelers are the 5 seed.
Yes.
If the Chargers win and Pittsburgh loses, assuming Baltimore wins, then the Chargers are the 5 seed. Inverse of that is the 6 seed. So if Pittsburgh loses and Baltimore wins and the Chargers win, Pittsburgh becomes the 6. Chargers are the 6 if they win and Pittsburgh wins, or if they lose. Those are the ones that I'm paying the most attention to because whoever is the 7 seed, I believe is going to go to Buffalo and lose.
Yes, so it's
the 2 seed.
You're looking at 4 and 5 realistically,
4
right?
4 and 5 and 6.
I guess 6 technically because if 6 beats the 3, but more than likely you're looking at 4 or 5.
4 or 5. But 4, 5, and 6 because the Chargers or Steelers could be the 6.
Sure.
So whoever is the 4 or the 5. I personally believe the Chiefs are going to play the Chargers in the divisional round. I think the Chargers are going to be the 5 seed. They are going to go to Houston and win. And then Denver is going to go to Buffalo and lose. And Buffalo is going to face Baltimore in the divisional round because Baltimore will take care of the Steelers in the divisional round. And the Chiefs will play the Chargers. And if they win, then the winner of Baltimore and Buffalo. I would rather the Chiefs play the Steelers or the Texans rather than the Chargers.
I think they will, by the way. I think
you think Pittsburgh is going to beat Cincinnati?
Yes.
I think Cincinnati's winning.
That's been my upset pick of the week.
I think Cincinnati's winning that because they don't know what's going to happen on Sunday.
No, agreed. The NFL did a good job with that, by the way, of scheduling. I mean, again, it's the NFL. They know what they're doing. They know more than us. But
and they got blessed with the final game of the season in the NFC being for the 1 seed or the 5 seed.
My goodness, it did.
Minnesota and Detroit, they could put that on. That was the most obvious Sunday night football game when Minnesota beat Green Bay.
Yep.
Sunday night, Detroit, Minnesota, in Detroit. Winner gets the 1 seed and home field advantage. Loser gets the freaking 5 seed.
That's brutal.
And has to go on the road 3 games.
But I do think Pittsburgh beats Cincinnati.
Okay. Pittsburgh, by the way, 2.5-point dogs.
Yeah, which
in
is
that game at home against Cincinnati.
Again, I don't get it. I think just slight tidbit. I think Pittsburgh can take advantage of the porous Bengals secondary. What does Russell Wilson do well? Is the deep ball, right? And so George Pickens, as much of a head case as he is, he's a great talented player.
I'll be rooting for Pittsburgh hard in that
game.
Again,
I think stylistically, I like Pittsburgh in that one. They're physical. They'll get after Joe Burrow. They can be physical with some of the receivers that other teams cannot. And again, they won't make the mistakes because I think Mike Tomlin's a damn good head coach. So I actually have Pittsburgh as the 5 seed.
Okay,
which again,
I'll take your scenario over mine. Believe me,
I know, and people have asked. We had this kind of conversation. It was like because you wouldn't play the 7 seed.
They're not going to go to Buffalo and win.
But even
Denver, Miami, Cincinnati, I just don't think any of those teams go to Buffalo and win. It's, by the way, people talking about Cincinnati. The more likely scenario, if Denver loses, is Miami.
Yes.
Miami's in the playoffs, not Cincinnati. Miami's not losing to the Jets.
Well, if Tua Tagovailoa plays, he's still questionable to play.
If he doesn't play, they're not losing to the Jets.
That's fair.
Aaron Rodgers had the lowest QBR of the season on Sunday.
Horrible. He benched himself.
We had the highest QBR of the season and the lowest QBR of the season.
So what it comes down to for me, Denver, not scared. Miami, definitely not scared. Bengals, not scared. Chargers are only, quote-unquote, scary because that'd be your 3rd time facing that team. Justin Herbert's, I think, a really good quarterback.
And you bounced one off the uprights to beat him. There was no McConkey and
I
no
know,
Dobbins.
but there was a lot of also missing pieces for Kansas City.
I totally agree.
I'm not a huge fan of that argument, although I get what you're doing there.
Khalil Mack dominated DJ Humphries in that game, in the second half especially.
But the reason why I think the Chargers can be a relatively dangerous team, because you're facing them again that 3rd time, but I think Harbaugh's a really good head coach.
Yeah.
I don't think Zach Taylor's a good head coach. I think that's what it comes down to is I don't believe in like Zach Taylor or Miami. Do I believe in a guy that wears capris? I don't know.
Might be coach. I mean,
Josh McDaniels.
They lose at New York, he might be out.
Again, that's my point. I don't think he was a flash. I don't think he's the answer. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Like Kevin O'Connell and guys that you're like, wow, that guy is
legit.
Legit.
That guy can coach.
That guy's legit.
When McDaniels when Tua goes down and they looked absolutely inept. Yeah. I'm sitting here going, okay, you're not the coach of the year. When he can do that with Sam Darnold, when Andy Reid can do it with Chad Henne and Matt Moore, like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't think he's this
with Tua. Like Mike McDaniel has to be better.
Sorry, Mike. I said Josh. I meant Mike.
Oh, you're fine. Mike, I didn't even realize that. I didn't correct you by subtly correcting you. Mike McDaniel needs to be better. That when Tua's in the game, they average a little over 3 touchdowns per game. When Tua was out of the game this year, before yesterday, they had a total of 3 touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
Without Tua in the game.
For a quarterback that misses a lot of games.
Yeah, but for a coach that's an offensive guru and genius with Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Achane and guys like that. And Jonnu Smith, who's been a revelation at tight end this year, especially if you're in fantasy. You've got those guys to throw to and run the ball with, and you can't figure out how to score more than 3 touchdowns this year with Tua Tagovailoa out of the game with a backup quarterback? Like, I can't look at you as an offensive genius if you score 3 touchdowns all year with a backup quarterback in there. I promise you, Andy Reid coaching that team with the backup quarterback, they'll score more than 3 touchdowns in, the 4 or 5 games that Tua Tagovailoa missed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a chance he's coaching for his job if they lose at New York. They're 2.5-point favorites at the Jets. The Jets have already said 1-2-3 Cancun a while ago, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. But I think Miami wins that game. I think Denver wins, but I think Miami wins that game. The funniest scenario, quite frankly, would be Cincinnati winning, Miami losing, so it sets up a Denver and Chiefs game for Cincinnati to get in, and then the last possession of the game, Denver gets a controversial penalty in their favor to win the game. And the whole rigged for the Chiefs and the refs going out of their way actually benefits the Broncos that kick a field goal to win the game, and the Bengals are knocked out.
Yeah, how would that compute in their domes? It would be short-circuiting.
Tell me that isn't a perfect scenario for this weekend, just to blow the whole narrative up of the refs are out for the – it didn't matter then. Then they're just making sure that we don't get – yeah, because the refs are looking out for the Chiefs because they know the Chiefs don't want to see the Bengals in the playoffs.
No team has gotten more run off of one playoff victory 3 years ago than the Cincinnati Bengals. It is absurd.
You nailed it, by the way. If we lose to the Broncos, then we didn't want to see the Bengals all offseason. Yeah, they'll convince themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you've got this dumbass national narrative of people tweeting it out nationally going,
yes,
well, I know this. Chiefs don't want to see the Bengals. Yeah, they don't want to see a 500 team
with an atrocious defense
that just won their first game against a winning team all year in overtime to do that. That's what it took.
Chiefs didn't lose to the Patriots. So,
100%.
That's the Bengals that did that. Yeah, so we can't lose bad games for you.
Look,
make this one matter.
The only team that I look at in the playoffs that I go, yeah, I'd rather not play that team. If I could choose one team that the Chiefs do not play, it'd be Buffalo.
Yeah.
That'd be the team. Baltimore, as I said after the Chiefs beat Baltimore in week 1, I said, if Baltimore's going to the Super Bowl, it means somebody else beat the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing it. They just don't. They're not doing it.
One thing.
Famous last words, by the way. Go ahead and mark that.
Very quick thing on the
for
Ravens.
For those in Baltimore that want to play that one in late January.
We all agree Lamar has not been good in the playoffs. We all agree. I don't know if it's a mental, physical, whatever it is. He's had his playoff struggles.
He's had individual games where it's like, okay, he played well there, but the totality of his playoff performances have been suboptimal.
And the only thing I will say is, until you do it, you've never done it, which seems easy to say and silly.
Yeah.
But remember Andy Reid?
Yeah.
The whole narrative was, well, he can't win the big one. And then what happened when he won one?
He won 2 more, I remember.
Well, the floodgates open, and so I think it's a little early to say Lamar can't do it. I want to see it first. I'm not going to bet on him to do it by any means, but once he does it, because Aaron Rodgers won 1 Super Bowl, and he got 12 years of grace of, well, because it's just now coming around. His final couple years in Green Bay was like, okay, well, now he has to win another one. But he had at least a decade of grace of, well, he's not a choker in the playoffs because, look, he won 1.
The Packers haven't given him help over the years. They won't draft a first-round wide
receiver. That was the narrative. So once you win 1, that is it rolls off you. The playoff monkey on your back rolls off you.
Well, I do believe there will be a year in his career where Lamar plays in the Super Bowl. I believe he would be the first or only second quarterback ever to win a regular season MVP at any point in his career and never play in a Super Bowl if he didn't make a Super Bowl. I think he'll make one.
Who would be? He's already the only one that hasn't made a single Super Bowl while winning 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, who would have been the other quarterback?
I think it's in the I have to look back. I remember this when Lamar won the his first MVP in 2019. And I said, if Lamar never makes the Super Bowl, and I went back and looked
quarterback. We're talking quarterback.
Quarterbacks only. Yeah, quarterbacks only to never make the Super Bowl while being a regular season MVP. He might be the only one. If that was 4 years ago that I looked that up. He's won 2, but Dylan's right. He is currently the only one with 2 MVPs that has never made
Is it Warren
a
Moon?
Super Bowl.
Did Warren Moon ever win an MVP? Okay. I didn't have to run and shoot ever.
No, I think it was like the early years. We'll look it up. And he may be the only one. I do believe that he's good enough, and Harbaugh's a good enough coach that they'll find a way. Look, they won the divisional round last year. And in the AFC Championship game, it wasn't Lamar's fault that Zay Flowers fumbled in the end zone.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault, Giancarlo. And can the Chiefs beat the Ravens in the AFC Championship game on the road? And they can. It was his fault, the turnovers, the interception in the end zone. That was on Lamar. That was a bad throw. It's a terrible throw. It's a bad decision. And so, yeah, he's had some struggles at different times. I believe he's a good enough quarterback that he'll play in a Super Bowl. I believe Josh Allen at some point will play in a Super Bowl.
Did Steve McNair play? Yeah, he played in a Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I believe Joe Burrow has played in his one and only Super Bowl in his career. We'll see how long Zach Taylor's the coach there. We'll see without T. Higgins, when Trey Hendrickson walks, when they don't pay money for different free agents. We'll see how that works out in Cincinnati because the Mike Brown is very cheap. So I believe Cincinnati is probably, with Joe Burrow, played in that. I think Joe Burrow is going to be Phillip Rivers with one Super Bowl appearance. Phillip Rivers never got there, but it was Phillip Rivers every year. Can he do it this year? Joe Burrow got the monkey off his back early, so he doesn't have except for can he win one? It'll be like Marino. You know, how did Marino never win a Super Bowl? He went to one early and then couldn't ever get back. Such an amazing quarterback that could never have the full team around him to get it done. I personally believe that's going to be Joe Burrow in his career. But I also think Lamar will play for a Super Bowl. I do believe Josh Allen at some point will play for a Super Bowl. I think they are so good, and Josh Allen is so good to carry a team that he can overcome McDermott, where Lamar is helped out by having one of the best coaches in the NFL as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Ooh, that Zay Flowers fumble may come up in the next couple of segments. We'll go through our top 5 sports moments of 2024. The new year on Wednesday. A shorter show tomorrow. We're done at 1 o'clock today. We'll talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up an hour from now. Field Yates at noon. We'll hear from Andy Reid in the noon hour as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll go through our top 5 sports moments of 2024 coming up next. All right, a Monday edition of The Zone. We'll talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11:30. We've got Field Yates coming up at noon. Hopefully hear from Andy Reid in the noon hour today. Done at 1 o'clock today with the Mizzou Tigers taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's at 1:30 in the Music City Bowl. You've got it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And then tonight, little Monday Night Football, Lions 49ers to set up what is the number one versus number 1 or number 5 seed next Sunday night. Lions and Vikings Sunday Night Football to wrap up the NFL season. 913-912-4810. Let's go through our, as New Year's Eve tomorrow, we'll be on with a shortened show, about an hour and a half. And then New Year's Day on Wednesday. So let's look back over the season, if we can, and go through what were our top 5 sports moments of the year. And this is, there's no particular qualifiers with this. It's just whatever you guys feel was the moments that stood out to you, the top 5 sports moments. Could be personal, could be citywide, could be whatever. So we'll go through our top 5 here.
I'm going a lot of personal
me too.
vibes are, again, maybe not the most important, but I think that are important to me.
I agree with that. Who do we want to start with? I'll go. We'll do. Each one of us will start with one of them. I'll start with number 5. My number 5 moment of this sports season ended up being a heartbreaking loss for the team, but because of the exact moment this happened, my son and I were decorating the tree, doing the Christmas decorations around the house. I'm putting the lights on the tree. My son's there helping. We're watching the Mizzou and South Carolina game with that on in the background. And it's 4th down and 5. Missouri's trailing by 4 in the game. And they go for it on 4th down because they're down by 4. And this moment happens.
Pressure up the middle. Cook lobs it. It is Cole! It's Luther Burden! Touchdown, Tigers! Gets redemption. Watch this block right before Brady Cook is going to release the football. Right there on TJ Sanders. If Sanders takes one more step towards Brady Cook, maybe that causes an errant pass or it not to be as accurate. It was a low margin for error down the sideline, and it is put right on the money. It's a great job by Luther Burden to track that ball in tight coverage. And Eli Drinkwitz said the signing of Luther Burden a few years ago when they flipped him from Oklahoma gave this program hope.
Check that. They were down 5 because they did go for 2.
Yeah.
To go up eventually 3. And then the final minute and a half of that game didn't really happen. At least I don't remember it happening. But that moment for me was we're sitting there doing some Christmas decorations. It's 4th and 5. It's like, I picked Missouri to lose this game. I didn't think Brady Cook would play in it. I thought they would lose and South Carolina would cover. That wasn't the case. Mizzou covered in that game. I would have picked Mizzou to cover the double-digit spread because the double-digit spread was expecting Brady Cook not to play.
Yeah.
He played. And that moment, that 4th down catch, one-handed catch, the lob was maybe the best throw Brady Cook has made maybe since the K-State game last year to Luther Burden, which kind of set the season off and running, or the throw on 4th down and long against Florida. A couple of big-time throws. But that was awesome. Thought they were going to win and keep themselves in the playoff hunt. My son and I jumping up and hugging and everything.
Yeah.
That moment right there definitely in my top 5. When I think back of like the moments this year, that one comes up just because, Christmas decorations, we're doing all that stuff, and then that moment happens. The rest of it was rough. What's your number 5?
Mizzou could have been SMU this year. They could have been SMU.
It could have been a contender. I could have been something. If Coach would have just let me play. Coach sat me that last game. The scouts were there.
Anyone know what happened February 5th?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
February 5th. Anyone know? That was the day that Bobby Witt Jr. signed his contract extension.
That's a big day. Good call, man.
11 years, $288.8 million deal. This right there was my number 5, was Bobby Witt Jr. signing that contract extension. That again,
great call.
Before the season started, it was just a precursor of foreshadowing of what was to come, because that set the stage. I really think it did.
And he took less money to stay.
Yes,
let's be honest.
You saw Juan Soto's contract.
Yep.
You're telling me Juan Soto is 3 times better than Bobby Witt Jr.?
And you know how I know he took less money to stay? Because he agreed to a contract after the Royals signed Waka and Lugo and Renfroe. After they did that, then he said, okay, I know you. Now let's talk, and I'll agree to this contract.
Yeah,
he wasn't
going to
agree. He wanted way more money than that if you were going to sign him to a long-term extension. But now I know you're serious. Let's get this thing done and let's roll.
So that's my number 5. Bobby Witt Jr. and the Royals coming to that extension.
Love it. Dylan, what say you? What's your number 5?
My number 5 is actually Devin Neal being the all-time leading rusher at Kansas this season in a year that didn't have a lot of good, but ended very well, actually, with a good little winning streak. Obviously, we lost to Baylor, but we, messed up the college football playoff a little bit with Colorado and Iowa State wins and BYU, of course. So
absolutely.
He actually broke June Henley's record of 3,841 yards. He finished with 4,343 yards. Also broke the touchdown record with 49 over Henley's 43 as well.
In the same game, right? Wasn't it? Was it
both in Iowa State? And he's also the only player in KU history that had Gale Sayers and John Riggins to have 1,000 rushing yards in 3 seasons.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
How about that? Dude, he's one of the more underrated football players
and a Lawrence
around
kid.
here.
That's the cool part.
Right.
Too.
Yeah. I really do think because of this season and the losses early, I don't know that around here locally we'll appreciate how good Devin Neal was.
Yeah.
And what he did for the KU program overall. That's a fantastic one. Love talking to him.
Someone in the NFL
started.
is going to scout and see that and get a good running back late.
Yes.
Because of the culture. And
love for him to draft him, the Chiefs.
Freaking
awesome, man.
That physicality.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
His ability to make guys miss. Yeah. I mean, it's he's really good. And you could see in his face when we talked to him before the season what it would mean to him as a Lawrence kid to go down as the all-time leading rusher, yards and touchdowns. He had to stay healthy for that to happen. He had to have a successful season while staying healthy. Both of those happened for him personally. The team-wise didn't really do what they were hoping. But I think Devin Neal, maybe as time passes, there'll be a growth of appreciation for him. Maybe just overall, I think KU fans certainly appreciate him as well. But yeah, Devin Neal, what a phenomenal year. That's a good one against Iowa State, and playing spoilers along the way with that. Number 4, we'll start with you, Sterling.
Shout out to Lebo, because with him being gone, I was able to cover my first Chiefs game.
Oh,
it was nice. So that was my first time actually going, media room, doing all that stuff.
Cheering and getting yelled at. Stop cheering in the press box, Sterling.
I knew I wouldn't do that. Come on, it's
touching
me.
people inappropriately.
Okay, well that's
in the
different.
Press box.
Was
it Nate Taylor?
Mick was there.
Was it Nate Taylor that you touched inappropriately?
It was Harold.
Harold.
That's
Poor
right.
Harold.
Harold Coons.
I had
a nice jacket.
I grazed his
Mick, you touched inappropriate
jacket.
last night when we were on the elevator.
We
after
had to
Sunday
make
send-off.
room in the elevator.
Well, you didn't have to do that.
It's fine. But yeah, it was the Denver game, one that with the blocked field goal.
Blocked field goal.
Because I went in going, wow, my first time here, and the Chiefs are going to lose, and that would have been the first loss of the season. Yeah. And I thought, I will never get asked back. No. I had to go to the locker room afterwards, so I go, this is going to be the worst locker room experience. This is going to be, at least to be a fun story of like your first time doing that, the first time in the locker room, and
it's sad.
Everyone's just sad.
No music
but
in the
because
background.
the blocked field goal, everything was great, and it was awesome. So that, for me, was, again, personal, but also, I guess, the Chiefs and Leo calling his shot and blocking that field goal against Denver.
That's awesome. Number 4, I think. It kind of reminds me real quick of, I think it was in 2020, maybe, where I had to do a post-game show. It's still the only post-game show that I have hosted. And I think it was when they lost to the Chargers in 2020, or they lost to the Chargers in 2019. One of those where it was like, all right, I got this, all good. This will be a win, no big deal. And it was a frustrating loss for the Chiefs in that particular game, and I can't remember what year it was, but they ended up losing, and I'm like, well, this sucks. I got to do this freaking post-game show. All right, what's number 4 for you, Dylan?
Number 4, pretty broad here. You can pick which one inside of it was your favorite one, but the Olympics happening feels like an eternity ago. But,
Damn, it does.
LeBron and Kevin and maybe Steph. I don't know if Steph will be there for one more, but getting to see those guys in their last Olympic run go for a gold medal against Serbia in one of the best basketball games of all. Or my bad, Serbia, then France in 2 of the best basketball games of all time.
Great.
And then down to B-Girl Ray Gun, one of my personal favorites, of course. Pick any of the ones you like. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What's funny is I'm so like local focused that thinking back to the whole year, completely forgot about the Olympics.
I know it feels like forever ago.
It's crazy how that happens because there was. Chiefs win the Super Bowl, the Royals, going to the playoffs and winning throughout the summer. Like us talking Chiefs in training camp, like us
the
talking
trade
about
deadline
so many
is right
things.
in the middle of it for baseball. Yeah,
there's so many things going on. My number 4. I've got the sound here. I sort of combined these because this was the Royals clinching a postseason berth for the first time in 9 years. But also, I go back to a moment a few days before that when there was a ball in the bottom of the 9th flying through the air down the right field line off the bat of Joey Gallo that if it was a home run, everybody, it seems, unanimously agrees the Royals do not make the playoffs if that ends up being a home run. It went foul. They get the final out of Joey Gallo. They win the game. They go on to eventually clinch on that Friday night, and they make the postseason by 1 game. 1 game. Here's how that sounded as we replayed that through the eyes of Royals fans all over the world, and then cutting to them actually clinching and taking care of business. My number 4 was this.
Belted to right field. Hooking.
Go foul, go foul.
Stay fair.
Go foul.
Stay fair, stay fair.
Go foul, go foul.
It's fair.
It's foul.
It's fair.
It's foul.
Foul.
Please go foul.
No. Foul. Wow. My heart stopped.
We're a tough team to beat. It's going to be fun, but now it's go time, right? I mean, we got to play these last 2 games, but you work all year, like Bobby said a million times. We didn't come this far just to come this far.
We compete each and every day. We're trying to get better each and every day, and last 2 weeks may not be what we wanted to, but we're here now, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep grinding, and we're going to enjoy this ride.
I want this guy, enjoy this moment. Feel, how to be in playoff, and from now on, they just want to play for playoff, and that's for the city too. That's for you guys too, fans. Thank you for the support all season long. And now we're going to make sure that we go back to KC.
And they did.
Yeah.
They did make sure they came back to Kansas City for 2 games. We got 2 games at Kauffman Stadium in the playoffs this year. Think about that. Going into this season, from the moment you mentioned number 5 of, or number 4, number 5 of Bobby Witt Jr. signing that contract to the Royals making the postseason for the first time in 9 years and wild card, but then getting a couple of home games. That's our 5 and 4. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this hour at 11 o'clock. We will get into our top 3 sports moments of the 2024 season. Cynthia Freeland at 11:30. Field Yates coming up at noon. Andy Reid coming up in the noon hour as well. We'll find out probably officially that the starters will be resting against the Broncos. More Zone next. All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up at 11:30. Get her thoughts on this final week of the season, how the Chiefs are playing. You know, we talked about the DVOA games that they have had this year. We talked about that, on Friday, and how they have played and what they've looked like this late in the season, sort of rounding into form. We'll talk with her about that and some other things in the NFL, the big Lions and Vikings game, Sunday Night Football. Lions take care of business tonight against the 49ers. Would be expected. You can hear it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And then Field Yates comes up at noon. We'll talk with him about the NFL as well, what he sees from this Chiefs team, some of the scenarios, who he thinks would be the best opportunity for the Chiefs. Would it matter? We'll see as to who they play in the playoffs. And then we'll hear from Andy Reid after Field Yates. More Zone next. WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 1 o'clock. We got the Music City Bowl coming our way at 1 o'clock. Pregame for Mizzou and Iowa, 1:30. When that thing kicks off, the program comes your way after the bowl game is over with Jack Johnson captaining the show. Jack Johnson with the con coming up later on today. And then Monday Night Football right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB with the Lions and 49ers. K-State took care of business in the Rate Bowl. We talked about that on Friday when they took care of business on Thursday night, winning 44-41 in that comeback against Rutgers. Let's get into our top three moments, sports moments of the 2024 season. We went through number 5 and number 4, the three of us. Let's get into our top 3 sports moments of the 2024 season. Number 3, Dylan, we'll start with you on this one. We started with me on number 5. We started Sterling on number 4. Dylan, we start with you on number 3.
So I've been seeing this video pop up recently of Chris Jones dodging snowballs on the sideline of my number 3 pick of the Bills finally getting their wish of having to play the Chiefs in Buffalo and then having their season ended by the team having maybe one of their worst seasons in the Mahomes era at the time. So that's probably my number 3. It was hard not to make that number 1, but I think we all know what number 1 will be. But that was chef's kiss. It's better than Baltimore because, again, Baltimore had never been saying, wait till they come to
get them.
Exactly.
Yeah, wait till they have to play in our house.
Exactly. So it just is so poetic that the Bills had everything that they wanted. Mahomes even said as much after the game in the locker room that they got what they wanted, and
that's awesome.
They blew it. So.
Yeah, Mahomes has never won a playoff game
on
in
the
a true road game.
The
only other one he's played was the Super Bowl in Tampa against the Bucs, and he lost. Wasn't even a neutral site game. It was supposed to be a neutral site, but that was in Tampa. He lost that game. Never won a game in the postseason on the road. Okay. Until he did. You don't do it until you do it. You know, as you said earlier.
Thank
Sterling.
you.
Don't do it until you do it.
It's called a callback.
That's right, callback. Let's call back to the week after that Buffalo game for me. My number 3 was what I think was maybe the biggest moment in that Baltimore game. And then I threw in at the end, clinching it. But it was really the moment was after Zay Flowers taunted. They get down in the red zone, and this play happened, which did change that entire game.
About the 11-yard line, cheering his brother's team on here. 2nd and 8 from the 9. Jackson to Flowers. He dives. The ball came out. It's recovered by Kansas City. Did the ball come out before he broke the plane? This is a call that could determine the whole game right here.
Snead,
It's out.
who has played at the highest level this entire season, Jim.
He gets the protection. He goes long and on his back to ice it is Marquez Valdez-Scantling for the 2nd straight week. He catches a long ball. He had 2 of them against the Bills.
So the fumble in the end zone was really the moment, and we know what ultimately ended up happening of them winning 17-10 because it was 17-7 at that point. That was the first play of the fourth quarter. It was 2nd down and 9 or 2nd down and 8 from the 9-yard line. They could still get a first down without scoring. He could have been tackled at the 1-yard line, and they would have had a 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, down 17-7. That would have made it 17-14 with the entire fourth quarter to play. And L'Jarius Sneed made one of the biggest defensive plays of the entire season. There were plenty of big defensive plays, especially in the postseason. Maybe none bigger than that one. And the turnover, and then the Chiefs go and a few possessions later wrap that thing up with a 3rd down throw to MVS. Over and beating the cornerback that before the game came over to the Chiefs sideline and was chest-bumping Chiefs players trying to intimidate them, and he's the one that got beat by MVS. What's your number 3, Sterling?
It's actually a loss, similar to your number 5.
Okay.
Right? It was the Royals playoff game against the Yankees, their first game against the Yankees in the playoff. You might be saying, why, Sterling? That's weird.
Why would that one be?
That was my wedding.
Game. Oh.
That was my wedding, and it was so fun. Everyone had their phones out, and we're all watching on our phones and having a good time. Like, that was so enjoyable. Yes, the wedding, but like the sports aspect of this, Royals are, I love baseball. Absolutely love baseball, and I love the Royals as what I grew up watching. I mean, I played more baseball than football. Baseball was a sport that I really, really loved, and I always enjoyed watching the Royals, that just the magicalness of 2014 and 15. And then, again, culminating for me in this playoff appearance, just showing that, one, the Royals are back, but it was so fun having everyone on their phone and watching the Royals game. We're going around to each table. Everyone's living and dying with each pitch. So for me, that's my number 3, is the Royals playoff game against the Yankees. Yes, they lost, but it was also at my wedding, and just what a fun experience.
I thought it was really cool when there was like the emphatic agreement and yes from the entire crowd when you're up there and he's officiating the wedding. He said, Sterling, do you take this lady to be your lawful wedded bride to have and to hold in sickness and in health to death do you part? And everyone went, yes! At the same time, I thought that was odd. The entire crowd, like, yeah!
And then,
all right!
And then Zerpa came on and was walking everyone, and everyone yelled, no!
And then it was,
do
you take Sterling? Do you take Sterling to be your, no! That was odd. Like the entire crowd yelling yes right at that moment was really weird.
Pull him!
I don't want to see him again. Oh, wait. Proceed there, sir. Yes, Father, you have the stage. Go right ahead. Go for Father. That was a fun night. That was a fun night, all sitting around the table. I thought it was funny. You guys were making your rounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, guys, good to see you. And everybody's like, hey, go talk to somebody else. We're watching the game right now.
I would just stop by and sit for a little bit. I'm like, Nat, I'll get the next table, Nat. You get that one. I'll stay here for a second. I'll talk to Petro and Jason and Dylan for a little bit.
Leibs and, Lebo sneak another drink. So his
wife. Gosh, Lebo. Yeah, that's my number 2, Lebo.
And a piece of cake, of course. Before,
sneaking the cake before
everyone else.
Hey, Dylan, you want a shot of Rumplemans?
He actually cut the cake. Lebo did. So.
Hey, Dylan, you want a shot of Rumplemans? Lebo goes, I'll take that. Actually, out of nowhere, I'll take that.
I thought it was odd when Lebo took the piece of cake and stuffed it into Sterling's face, just so he could start it. It was a very special, very pretty moment at the time. All right, that is the number 3, right?
Yes.
We all did our number 3. Number 2, Sterling, we'll start with you. Or no, me? Me, number 2? Doesn't matter. Sterling, you, number 2. Me, number... I'll just go first. My number 2 was the... So I combined these just because I wanted to hear the clip, but it's actually not my number 2, but I wanted to hear the clip just because it was funny. My number 2 is actually the Michael Massey triple on that Wednesday night at Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find highlights that were the TV broadcast because you can't get highlights of the TV broadcast because the guy who was doing play-by-play wasn't giving many highlights or enthusiasm of things that were taking place. And so the highlights were of the radio call of that Michael Massey triple. But my son and I being at the game and seeing that thing fly and Juan Soto getting close to it and diving and to see it hit the ground and go past him. And then just the explosion in the stadium, me and my son jumping up and down, my chair falling backwards, right? My son had a big knot on his head because he jumped up while I was reaching down and my top teeth went into the back of his head, which hurt me, but also hurt him. And so we're, cheering through the pain and jumping up and down, and he gets to, third, and everybody's giving high fives. And I look back and my chair's like 3 feet away from me. I'm like, what the hell happened? Because of where we were sitting, because of the very, very nice tickets that we were given, which was too nice of Chad to do that. I felt really appreciative and mad at the same time. It was a weird feeling, like, why did you do that? But also, thank you for doing that. But it was my number 2 of the entire year was that moment. I know the Royals ended up losing that game, but that moment when that ball skipped by Juan Soto. But because there wasn't a good highlight of that on the television side, I did want to play this just because it sort of encapsulated that Yankees series for us. So here's the highlight. We got to play a lot in that series.
Hit to short. Witt
Gets the force. Can they turn two? Yes, they can, and it's just the point we were making. It's not Giancarlo's fault. A near base hit. Couldn't beat it out at the other end. Turns into a double play. It's not Giancarlo's fault.
I know.
It's not Giancarlo's fault.
I know. No, you don't.
It's not Giancarlo's fault.
I know.
It's not Giancarlo's fault.
Right.
It's not Giancarlo's fault.
Don't
It's not Giancarlo's fault.
Don't with me, all right? Don't with me, not you.
It's not Giancarlo's fault. It's not Giancarlo's fault.
Oh my God.
It's not Giancarlo's fault.
Oh my God, I'm so
Not gonna lie, I would have rather there be more double plays from Giancarlo than what ended up happening.
Whose
that
fault
night.
is it, by the way? Did Bob Costas ever say whose fault it was, besides the guy that maybe hit into it? Or
Nobody to blame. Nobody to blame. It's just circumstances. That's all. I would have rather more double plays than him hitting balls off walls and over walls the next couple of nights. But what are you going to do? All right, number 2 for you. I forgot where we were. Number 2 for you, Sterling?
Yeah.
Did I start with the number 2? Okay.
Yes.
Sterling, number 2.
I apologize to Jayhawk fans and listeners right now, but Missouri beating Kansas is my number 2. I know, I get it. It's not a Final Four. I know how many rings? Final Fours? I know, guys. I get it. I get it. Let me have this because it was fun for me. I took my dad. See, that's what you get. Look forward to that. You're taking Everett to stuff. Eventually, Everett will take you to something, and then it's really fun, right? So I took my dad. I was not supposed to go to the game. One of my pledge brothers in college, he works at a bank out there in Columbia. They had bank seats.
Like a real bank or Joseph A?
Like a real bank.
Okay.
Like a financial institution.
I don't know if maybe he was getting you.
Not a clothing institution, but a financial.
Maybe he was getting you clothed for the game as well.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to be able to make it because I'm moving and I'm supposed to move that day. And he goes, "Oh, that's too bad. I got floor seats." And I go, "You bleep." And I'm like, "Hey, Nat." And she goes, "Take your dad. You'll remember this." She goes, "Take your dad. You'll remember this. It'll be fun." And boy, will I remember that for a long time. So me and my dad and one of my other friends, we went and made a trip down. And, of course, Missouri won. Made it a little close at the end, little nail biter. But, man, I will always remember. And, again, it's different when you take your dad somewhere versus it was a fun experience for us.
Yeah,
so
that
sorry,
is awesome.
Dylan and KU fans, but for us, again, not a Final Four.
You know, people beat us.
Pretty cool.
It's always their top 5 moment of the year. So when we win, it's
I knew it.
I almost didn't because he made
myself.
I like it.
Taking your dad, I didn't even want to do it, but
that was well done.
Had
Dylan.
to defend the KU
Trying to
people.
be rabbit myself over here.
No, I appreciate that.
I appreciate
Dylan.
that.
No, I definitely appreciate what you said. That was pretty good. Your number 2, Dylan.
So my number 2 is actually Bobby Witt Jr.'s wild card performance, keeping the tradition of us beating the Orioles alive after almost 10 years of dormancy. But he went 3 for 9, batting .333, and having 3 RBIs. Very big ones. Took a couple game winners as well. So I'm going to go with Bobby Witt's performance in the wild card win of the series against the Orioles.
Nice. Number 1, I think we're probably all in agreement of what number 1 is. Maybe not.
Me joining the show.
Oh, no, that was... we're doing the bottom 5.
That's 23, right?
We're doing the bottom 5 moments.
That's 24.
Oh.
We're doing the bottom 5 moments tomorrow.
Oh.
So that'll be number 1 of the bottom 5, which would make it the bottom. You're 1 day ahead. Remember I said bottom 5 tomorrow. Worst moments of the season.
Yeah, we all had the same number 1.
What was your number 1, Sterling?
Chiefs winning the Super Bowl.
What did it sound like, Dylan?
First and goal at the 3. Lining up in the clock at 10 seconds and ticking. In the shotgun, Mahomes. 4-man front, receiver in motion, low snap. He runs and he throws, caught, touchdown. It's caught. Hardman caught the ball. The Chiefs have won. The Chiefs have won. The entire bench empties. Chasing Mahomes in the end zone. Their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years. The Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions. It is a dynasty. The Chiefs have won Super Bowl 58, 25-22 in overtime.
The chills from that night when that happened and everybody watching it together when Mahomes released the football. While it was in the air, we all knew that they just won the Super Bowl. While it was in the air, because nobody was near Hardman. Nobody was near him. You knew it was over, that they won the Super Bowl. I had a pretty decent idea they were winning the Super Bowl on the third down run by Mahomes that got him down inside the 20-yard line. After earlier in the drive when he had the 4th and 1 run to pick up the first down, but that scramble up the middle on third down, which I think was right before the screen pass to Kelsey that got him down inside the 10-yard line, which then the next play was the McCole Hardman throw. But that run by Mahomes, I'm like, they're going to win this. They're going to win the freaking Super Bowl. They did it. They're going to do it again. But when that ball was in the air, like, it's over. They've won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, everybody's number one. Dylan, that's your number one. My number one, McCole Hardman catching the football, then winning the Super Bowl, obviously. I mean, I don't think there's a moment that could top that this year for anybody locally for a sports moment. That was pretty awesome. Do you guys have any honorable mentions for your top 5? I had 2 honorable mentions for my top 5.
The Pop-Tart Bowl.
This year, just a few days ago.
Yeah, I would go to the Mahomes cracking his helmet in the minus 19, the third or second coldest in NFL history game. Yeah.
One of my honorable mentions was Bobby Witt in the Home Run Derby.
Oh, yeah.
Home Run Derby night was pretty awesome. And the ball flying in the air to tie, and hitting the wall and Bobby looking at it like, is it going to go? Does it have enough backspin? Does it have enough fly? It's going to go. But that performance with Bobby Witt in the Home Run Derby was pretty awesome. Wide right for the Bills, the week before.
Joe Tooney playing left tackle.
Joe Tooney playing left tackle.
Honestly, Joe Tooney
Day.
should be close to top 5 because
– Yep. I'm trying to think if there were any other honorable mentions that I was thinking of for this year.
Well, Missouri beating Ohio State. That would have been the bowl game last year, but that was pretty big.
Yeah, that was a
nice
one.
Because that was after the New Year, I would assume, right? Wouldn't that have been on January or in January, I would assume?
Sure. I'll take your word for it. And when it was, I'm not sure, but probably within the last year of today.
Yeah.
December 30th, I would guess that was the case. So, obviously there was big Royals moments. There were big Royals moments this year. There were huge Chiefs moments this year, and some other moments along the way, obviously. But there you go. Top 5 sports moments. We'll do the bottom 5 tomorrow. We will not.
Somehow it's all me related.
Yes.
It's all me joining the show, things I've said.
Number 1, Sterling joining the show. Number 2, Sterling's second day. Number 3, Sterling's second week, knowing that this was real. Number 4, just yesterday.
Yesterday.
Enough. Number 5.
Now I have to deal with him on Sunday Sound Off.
Yeah. Gosh. Number 5, Sterling and Tahoe. Like, just these lowlights of this entire
You're
year.
welcome for Tahoe.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed Tahoe.
Dylan, I sometimes do nice things.
See, that could have been a sports moment of you playing beer pong with Miles Teller and David Wells.
I'll add it to my honorable mention.
Honorable mention of you playing beer pong.
Yes.
Your honorable mention, Dylan, is Sterling playing beer pong
Because to
with
be
Miles
honest,
Teller and
hearing
David
that
Wells.
story through the tie line the next day was awesome.
It was fun.
It was awesome.
Could not.
And then the Miz coming up to me and saying, "Wow, I'm surprised you're awake today."
The Miz.
The Miz.
Just randomly, the Miz. I appreciated when we were there, Dylan. You'll appreciate this too. When we were walking, it was one of the days. It was in the morning. People were out on the driving range warming up, and we walked by Andrew Whitworth, who then turns around and looks at us, and Sterling goes up and says, "Dude, hoodies under the sport coat.
No, don't lie.
Dude, I
don't
freaking
lie.
love it.
He's been doing this to me.
It is such a cool
I did talk to him.
Fashion trend.
Did not talk to him about that.
Absolutely love the hoodie under the sport jacket. It is
the
awesome, dude.
You know what?
And I'm so glad that you have done that because somebody needed to do that. And then you walked away. I thought it was odd, and he was very appreciative of that.
Thank
that
you for
cool.
bringing that up. He was penning a apology letter actually last week.
You like that, right, Sterling? At least from my my interpretation of your
so
interaction.
Angry right now.
Your interaction with Andrew Whitworth.
He thinks it's classier than button up and tie. It's classier while also being casual at the same time.
Absolutely. It's
So
like a mullet.
angry
It's like,
right
you know,
now. No, mullets
business
are
in
tight.
the front, party in the back. You know
Mullets
what I mean?
are cool.
Business in the front with you got the sweater and the jacket, and then in the back, oh wait, there's a hood back there. Wait a minute, this guy's ready to party.
It is interesting that
or rob somebody. I don't know.
That I love mullets and I love El Caminos, yet I hate hoodies and suits. I get it. You think a man who loves El Caminos would love that.
Just
but
going by what you said to Andrew Whitworth to his face.
I told him that Kwity Paye told me to tell him that he was the toughest guy he's ever gone up against in his NFL. And Kwity Paye was young, but he goes, he's got that old man strength, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
But no, if we see Andrew Whitworth next year in Tahoe, I will tell him.
No, you won't.
Bet.
No, you won't.
Bet.
You will not.
Odds are
plus 5,000 for you to tell him to his
Dylan,
face.
you think I won't do that?
Well, now I'm taking Sterling's side because if you're going to do that, then I'll take the other side. But I think it'd be fun. It would be funny. But
I'm not giving him plus 5,000. I'm just saying that would be the odds of Sterling actually going up. And by the way, not
surviving.
In a,
you mean
not in a joking manner, like
yes.
being serious.
Yes.
Being not in a joking.
You can't, after
not
the fact, you can't be like, I'm just kidding.
I'm just
no.
messing with you, man.
I think I would
just
say
saying,
I'm not going to
just joking
start. I'm
around
not
with
going to go up to him and just be like, "Dog, the hoodie under the suit gotta go." But I might talk to him a little bit and say, dude, let's be real now. What's with the hoodie under the suit? It is not a good look.
I still don't think that's going to happen.
It won't.
I don't think you would do that. I don't think you would do it to his
What's he going to do?
Pick you up and crush you?
His job for 20 years.
No, I get that. Low man wins.
Not if you are under his foot.
I get that, but if you're that angry over someone being like, dude, that's a bad, he's got to know it's a bad look.
No, he doesn't. I like the look, actually.
Yeah.
I actually like it.
Especially as a bald guy. Yeah, it's unfortunately that is we're allowed to do things like that.
Yeah, it's
like you're dressing up casual.
Yeah.
You know, I like that. You know what I mean? You're
I don't
you're
care if you
It's
wear
like the paperboy hat. The paperboy hat, looks good.
I don't care if he wears a hoodie. Don't wear it with a suit.
No, he can.
I don't care if he
wear
wears a suit.
He can wear
don't
whatever he
rock
wants.
it with the hoodie.
He can do whatever he
He
wants.
can wear whatever he wants, man. He's a good dude. He's a good.
He is a nice
Walter
guy.
Payton
He was
Man of the
nice
Year.
enough.
So Walter
I
Payton
have
Man of the Year. You're judging there based on his clothes.
I have no. I didn't say it made him a bad guy.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will talk with Cynthia Freeland coming up on the other side of the break, NFL Network analytics expert. Get her thoughts on what's coming up this weekend, the Chiefs in the playoffs, how they're playing right now, and the Detroit Lions with a win, the number 1 seed, lose, and just the number 5 seed. We'll talk about that with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, next.
She's done the research.
You know, I measured the big boys' booties for like 2 years.
She's analyzed the data.
If you can keep that big booty down, like if you are a big boy, if you're very tall and you can keep your booty down low, then you are far more successful.
She's crunched the numbers, and the results are clear.
The back of booty isn't as good, as it turns out.
If she picks a dog, she'll have the math to back it up.
It's not like Travis Kelce has done. My dog is very excited about this, just so you know.
It's Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. 1 o'clock, excuse me, as we've got the Music City Bowl coming up at 1 o'clock. We've got Field Yates coming up at noon. We got Andy Reid coming up today in the noon hour as well. Right now, typically on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock, we talk with Cynthia Freeland, but no show on the New Year's Day of Wednesday, so we get the chance on a Monday to talk with Cynthia Freeland. Cynthia, welcome into the show. How are you?
I'm great. Does anyone really know what day it is anymore? I mean, these weeks are so confusing with Christmas and New Year's on Wednesdays and bowl games and football every single day of the week. I mean, it's very confusing.
Yes, and the Chiefs this year, it seems like every week we've gone, today's a Wednesday, but it's the Chiefs Tuesday, so we're going to hear from this person today because they've got a Tuesday because their game is on a Saturday, and, well, it's a Wednesday, but it's really a Chiefs Monday. But, yeah, we've done that so often this year, and the final game of the season, they play a regular Sunday road game in the AFC West at 3:25 on CBS on Sunday. So this is just a typical week for the Chiefs. Andy Reid today, off day tomorrow, and then we get the other things later on this week. So, you know, just your regular week after the Chiefs played 3 games in 11 days.
I mean, you know, why not? It's all regular. Like, of course.
Yes, that's right. How was your Christmas, Cynthia?
It was great. It was wonderful. My family was here, so, you know, a little football, little family. My mom was stressed for the Chiefs game, but after that, everything was good.
That's right. Yes, her team won. Her team.
Yes, her team won.
The rest of the family's team plays tonight. So great.
She's a crazy old lady, but we're good.
I love it. It's so cool. It's it's an adopted mom here for us here in Kansas City. Are you I know you've celebrated Christmas in different cities, but are you a cold weather Detroit Christmas girl, or are you used to the sunshine and LA on Christmas Day?
I've gotten so spoiled. I think I paid my dues being cold growing up in Michigan, obviously. So, you know, and now I'm kind of like, I don't mind being able to go for, like, you know, a nice walk and not have to worry about coats and, you know, runny noses and stuff. So I've gotten really soft. I'm incredibly soft, and I'm okay with it.
How many Christmases did you spend in Germany?
5.
5 of them. Okay.
Yep.
Now, do you guys say O Tannenbaum, or do you call it the Christmas tree? Do you guys speak German around the Christmas time in your house?
No. I mean, we're in school. We were in Luxembourg, so it was French, German, and actually Luxembourgish were the languages that were spoken.
Wow.
And so French was the one, but my parents never really learned it. So I can speak it, and I can speak German as well. But I was probably, you know, I was in school age, and my parents were working, so not the same.
Sterling last week was showing off his ability to speak German. Like you were, what were you saying in German?
Ich liebe Bier. I love beer.
Yes.
Wo ist ein Badzimmer? Where's the bathroom? Das ist lecker. That is delicious.
There you go.
What else do you need?
That's a good point. It's a delicious beer. Now I need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's all you really need to know.
Great call. Yeah.
Well, I tell all of our reporters when we go over there, it's like you have to say "Ich habe eine Frage," which means I have a question. So you can just like come up to people and be like "Ich habe eine Frage," and then you can be like, "Do you speak English?" But yes.
That's incredible.
Yes.
She's a way better pronunciation than I do.
Well, she spent 5 years in Germany. So.
Yeah,
I was also a kid when your language is being
100%.
formed, right? It makes it a little easier.
That is so true. Like once you learn the English language, and it's like, God, it's so like teaching, trying to help my kids read and looking at words and sight words, and I'm like, yeah, I know it looks like it should be pronounced like that, but it's actually not pronounced like that. It's weird, right? I know.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's like, wow, our language is really difficult to learn.
Okay, well, German has 13 words for the. Okay, so
Really?
Right.
der, die, den, das, and the possessive. It's hard.
Wow. How
hard.
many
It's
years of
definitely
German
hard.
did you take, Sterling?
2.
Okay, good.
Oh, you're good. That's great for 2 years. That's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shout out Herr Peoples, Mr. Peoples at Blue Valley North. There we go.
There you go. BVN
you
in
go.
the house. I took 2 years of Spanish, and I know how to say "Donde está el baño?" Where's the bathroom? There you go. That's what I say. Cynthia Freeland is our guest. Cynthia, what have you seen maybe from the Chiefs as to how they're playing and maybe why they're playing better football? Andy Reid said these last 2 games, Houston and then Pittsburgh, are their best 2 complete games. Offense, defense, special teams had left a lot to be desired against the Steelers, but offense, defense, complete games of the season were the most recent games they played that took place 4 days apart.
I mean, I think, number one, the Joe Thuney factor, calming things down. We talked about this before where we said you don't need to have, like, the best situation in the entire league. You just need to be serviceable at that left tackle position. And Joe Thuney's done more than that. I mean, this man's super versatile. What a great player. But, the revolving door that was there, I think stabilizing that force a little bit more has been very, very helpful. And also getting a little bit more, we're seeing we haven't even seen the Chiefs play their best football yet. We haven't seen full Travis Kelce moment. We haven't seen full, Hollywood Brown moment. Like, we haven't seen the full situation come together yet.
And I do think that, with Hollywood Brown being out there for a couple of games, playing a number of snaps, but not playing like wide receiver 1 number of snaps, that's still Xavier Worthy that's getting the most snaps on the team. But I wonder how many of the plays that they had designed for Xavier Worthy and Marquise Hollywood Brown to be on the field at the same time, how many of those plays they've actually shown this year in the 2 games that they've played against Houston and against Pittsburgh versus when they open up in a few weeks in the divisional round, whether that be against what I think is going to be the Steelers or Chargers. I believe it's going to be the Chargers, or Texans. We'll see what those plays may look like with Hollywood and Xavier Worthy on the field at the same time, with the different wrinkles that maybe we would have seen earlier this year that we haven't got a chance to see those being deployed yet.
The good news is who else doesn't know? The Chargers or the Steelers.
That's right.
So, we all know that we don't know, and they all know that they don't know as well. So that's the interesting part for me on this is there's some teams, right, like the Ravens, a good example, they had 3 new offensive linemen to start the season. So part of the reason why their playbook has looked different in the more recent weeks than it did in the beginning of the season was because they were adjusting to 60% new people on the very crucial O-line, plus a very different run game potential than they had the year prior. I mean, you always have a good run game with Lamar Jackson, but you add Derrick Henry, things go crazy. So I think they're showing new looks because now they can, as opposed to the Chiefs situation where they're showing new looks because now they've held things back, right? Like, I think the Ravens are testing the waters, whereas the Chiefs are deploying things strategically, if that makes sense.
Do we get – I think we've got here in Kansas City specifically, and I think certainly around the league people believe this anyway, but I think we got a firsthand view of the difference between – subpar play at left tackle and all-pro play at left guard versus representative average or even a little bit above average play at left tackle and subpar play at left guard and what the offense looks like. Because Joe Thuney hasn't been, Trent Williams in his prime, right? He's not, Jonathan Ogden.
No,
and Mike Caliendo is a far cry from Joe Thuney at left guard. But Joe Thuney is much better than what the left tackles that they have been throwing out there, and Caliendo is much worse than what Joe Thuney has been in the 3 games that he has played. Yet your first point was one of the points that we've made around here in that the offensive line has looked different. The offense has felt like it's looked different. Patrick Mahomes has looked different with Joe Thuney playing the last 2 weeks really well at left tackle.
Yeah, and the thing to me, the thing to note is that it's never like it's the sum of the parts, right? So you were talking about that, you articulated that really well. Like, what is, like, let's pretend that let's assign a number of value to it, right? Let's say you're getting a 3 out of 10 at left tackle, and then you put Joe Tooney over there, and now it's a 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, something like that, right? But then the left guard goes from 9 out of 10 to like 6, but like now you're still like it's all things added together, not just one particular moment of that.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you're a 3 and a 9, that's 12. But now are you a 7 and a 6? Well, okay, now you're at 13.
Right.
And so you're a little bit better than what you would have been anyway. And much better at the most important position, right? I mean, that left tackle spot is so crucial. And while Caliendo has struggled at times, like I wonder, I think the Chiefs will go back to DJ Humphries if he's healthy. But I've sat here and I've lobbied for, Joe Tooney just to say at left tackle. And I think they go back to DJ Humphries because Caliendo has struggled. And they probably feel like, okay, what are our best 5 offensive linemen out there? Humphries at left tackle, Joe Tooney at left guard. That's our best 5. But I know what the offense has looked like with Joe Tooney at left tackle and anybody at left guard versus Joe Tooney at left tackle or a left guard and anybody at left tackle.
Right.
So.
And I think that the other thing to consider is, a lot of these things have to do with, okay, like, again, it's always a sum of the parts. So as Hollywood Brown stretches the field a little bit more and is running more of those number 1 snaps and is in the position to draw defenses away, that's going to also change where you'd like the pressure to not be coming from as well. And matchup, like opponent-wise, with the Steelers, you have guys coming from the outside, right? You could have guys coming from the inside against other opponents. So that, to me, and both the Texans and the Steelers are the same in that way, right? Whereas the Ravens, like, they're not as high of a pressure front, but they can get you from the inside a little bit more. So it's just, to me, I'm speaking about the Ravens just because I was thinking about the differences between the two, but that it's also going to be a little bit matchup dependent on where you need to get the little extra push from.
Cynthia Freeland is our guest, NFL Network analytics expert. Patrick Mahomes, the last 2 weeks, has looked really good, completing 73% of his passes, is averaging about 290 yards per game, has 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating over 100 in those 2 games combined. It's also been the fastest 2 games of the season in which he's thrown the football. Gotten rid of the football against Pittsburgh. It was the fastest of his entire career in throwing the football. As you see that stat, what goes into that stat? What does that tell you of what the Chiefs are doing and why the offense has been successful? Is it just as easy as, hey, throw the ball fast and you're going to be pretty good? What goes into those numbers where we've seen the 2 fastest of the season for this Chiefs team being the last 2 games they played?
Well, a couple things. Number one, trust goes into that because you can throw the ball fast, but in their higher probability throws, but you don't necessarily convert if you do. And the thing that the Chiefs do is they convert, right? They stay either, they get a new set of downs or score a touchdown. So that to me is a little bit, you have to take it one step further. And then we have to also remember, no one's giving Patrick Mahomes single high ever. Like, it's just not happening. So when you throw too quickly and the spacing is what it is with 2 safeties, then, two safety shells, like it's just going to look a little bit different. The yardage isn't going to be as high. And you have to remember also, like, compound that with the fact that there hasn't been, and this is no shade to any particular receiver, but the number 1 wide receiver situation hasn't been as strong as it forecasts to be going forward. So now you have an opportunity. Like, it's just going to change where the defenders are. If you get more space, to work with, I wouldn't give. If I were opposing defensive coordinator, I'm not going to give Patrick Mahomes any space if I don't have to. Well, now you're going to have to, and it's going to look a little different.
How much is that, system, Andy Reid, and how much is it Kurt Warner tweeting out and saying one of the things that it tells him and seeing those numbers is the most underappreciated or underrated part of playing quarterback in the NFL, which is figuring out what the defense is in and what your read is, and then finding that guy that's going to be your first read or eliminating reads before the snap, and that's how you get rid of the football. How much of that is also Patrick Mahomes sort of locked in of here's what they're doing, here's where I'm going with the football, trust as you talk about, and putting it where it needs to be?
They're both equally important. Like, I think it is. I mean, look, I'm biased. I love Kurt. I work with Kurt every single week, so I think he's brilliant. And I think sometimes he can be like an angry tweeter, but I actually think that in general, I think that statement is completely right. It is super. People say this mean thing like he's a system, like when they're not about Patrick, but in general, they'll say someone's a system quarterback. I'm like, well, yeah, if Andy Reid's your system, you're darn right you're a system quarterback. Like, you better be. Like, what are you thinking, right? So that's the same thing about, Tom Brady with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick had a pretty darn good system, so that helps significantly. Mm-hmm. But I think part of it is understanding the assignment and then executing it, but then also understanding that the defense is going to try to trick you, and you can't be tricked. So I think Patrick Mahomes' ability to, number one, see what's going on, and number two, eliminate things pre-snap just makes things a lot easier. All you're trying to do, to me, Patrick does the thing we all try to do in life, which is like simplify things so that we have the highest probability of the outcome you want, and he does it masterfully.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Cynthia Flynn's our guest. You mentioned the single high, and the Steelers were on the deep ball to Justin Watson when they finally connected. They were 0 for 5 this year on the deep pass to Justin Watson, so they finally converted on that. And what stood out with that one, as opposed to the deep ball that was the week before to Justin Watson, when there were two guys there and Watson was called for the offensive pass interference, what stood out was that Pittsburgh showing too high safety, and they end up blitzing their slot cornerback that was on Xavier Worthy. And Minkah Fitzpatrick had to sprint up to then take on Xavier Worthy, who's running a crosser. And he and Hollywood Brown were crossing. And so Hollywood Brown's on the left side of the formation. Xavier Worthy's on the right side of the formation inside of Justin Watson. Xavier Worthy's running a crosser to the left side. Minkah Fitzpatrick is guarding him. But the safety on top is saying, I've got Hollywood over here. Oh, and now Xavier Worthy's going that way. So now I've got a fade to my right, which leaves a one-on-one with Justin Watson on the right side. And Justin Watson won his matchup one-on-one, and he won it so much that Mahomes didn't have to be perfect with the football. Like, he could sort of lob it in there a little bit and let Justin Watson go get it. And to me, that is I shouldn't say 100%. It's a big part of Hollywood Brown being on the field, because if that single high safety doesn't have to worry about Hollywood on his right, on the left side of the offensive formation, and just worries about Xavier Worthy to his left, he doesn't go to his right immediately when the ball is snapped.
Exactly. Right. So like that's like, again, you're going to give someone some more space to work with. That's why before I said, when I was like, all right, well, we're going to see even better. Like, that is what's so dangerous. I go on other radio shows, across the country, and they're like, have we even seen the best Chiefs yet? And I'm like, no, you haven't. Like, and that's a wild thing to say about a team with this team, or about a team with a record and like locking up the 1 seed so early in the season. It's wild to be like, I don't even think we've seen the best yet.
Nope, not yet. Was there Cynthia Flynn's our guest? One quick one, and then I want to get your thoughts real quick on Lions-Vikings on Sunday night, even though the Lions play tonight. But is there a team matchup-wise that would be worse, I guess, for lack of a better term, more troubling for the Chiefs of the teams that'll be in the playoffs, or the most likely teams they would face? Let's say Buffalo, Baltimore, Chargers, Texans, Steelers. Is there a matchup there that would be less conducive for the Chiefs coming out with a victory than any other?
Well, I'm going to say Buffalo, because I can tell you for a fact that team specifically brought in Von Miller for a playoff game against the Chiefs. That was a couple of years ago, but still. And while their defense has some holes in it, we're all aware of those, secondary holes other than Christian Benford. This is a team that if they're gunning for anyone, it's the Chiefs. So to me, Josh Allen playing the way he is this season, and his ability to kind of take the team on his legs, I guess would be a better way to put it. His arm too, but his legs specifically. And that would be a tough matchup. Just like going forward, I think the Eagles would be a pretty tough matchup for the Chiefs as well.
All right. Last one for you. Who wins on Sunday night, Lions or Vikings? Who wins against the 1 seed and loses and gets the 5 seed?
It's really hard. Now, I'm my asterisk here is because the injury report to me will dictate everything, because these two teams are about as closely matched as possible. Like, if you watch to see the ways you're going to have to beat Sam Darnold, like, he's improved so much when he's under pressure. It has to be like not just pressure, but like it has to be like sack pressure. It can't be just regular old pressure. It has to be coming at you like clobber you, swallow you up. So should the Lions be able to get a few of the pieces that could potentially be coming back, then it maybe changes things, because I do have a lot of faith in the Lions offense. However, I don't see how, given what I forecast the injury report to be, I don't see how the Lions can overcome the buzzsaw that is what's going on both sides of the ball in Minnesota.
Yeah, Lions are already installed as 2.5-point favorites even before the game tonight over the Minnesota Vikings for Sunday night. So they're 2.5-point favorites.
I'm from Michigan. I would love that, but
yeah.
I also am from Michigan, so I know how the Lions can break your heart, repeatedly. So they might. It's just the injury report to me that's so damning. There really isn't a place to look where you can say, hey, there's a little bit of relief right here. There just isn't.
There's going to be a 14-3 wild card team in the NFC.
That's crazy. That's mad. And then someone from the South is like sneaking in by the skin of their teeth. Like how wild. That's why football is wild, man.
Yeah.
And like the skin of their teeth, they will sneak in.
Yep. Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, hey, Happy New Year to you and yours. Be safe, and we will talk next week.
Sounds great. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. There's Cynthia Freeland. Great stuff from her, as always. Get a chance to talk to her on a Monday with Wednesday being off. And yes, she's even with the Lions, the heart of a Lions fan, still saying the injury report may be too tough to overcome what has been this Minnesota Vikings juggernaut, that they dominated the game yesterday, even though it got closer there at the end.
Sure. They were up 17 with 8 minutes left, whatever it was.
Yeah, 27-10, and the final was 27-25. But, they were dominating that team. And so, they are playing some fantastic football right now, and the Lions still have to play tonight. So, I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens with that and how much maybe Detroit will rest some players, all of that stuff. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone next. more hour to go here on this Monday edition, New Year's Eve. 1 o'clock, we'll hand it over to the Mizzou and Iowa Music City Bowl. That kicks off at 1:30. But in the next hour, we're going to talk with Field Yates at noon. We'll talk with him in the next segment about this Chiefs team, about these playoffs, how this whole thing's going to shake out, what he thinks of these games and how they're going to shake out. But also, we'll hear from Andy Reid in the noon hour. So we'll probably, more than likely, get the official word that Patrick Mahomes and those guys will be resting. We know that's going to be the case. Carson Wentz is going to be starting. That's the main expectation. Although, I don't know, maybe Andy Reid says that Patrick Mahomes will play a quarter or something like that. I don't know. We'll find out. But we'll talk with Field Yates next and then Andy Reid. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Coming up later on this hour, we'll hear from Andy Reid getting ready for the Denver Broncos. He will be looking forward to the challenge of the Denver Broncos, certainly. Very well-coached team. Very well-coached team, and we'll see about if Patrick Mahomes will play. We'll find out that will not be the case. Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider, joining us here in the zone. Field, what is up, sir? How are you?
Jason, I am doing well. For the last time we'll talk during not just the regular season, but during the year of 2024. It's crazy. Things have flown by. Much has changed during this year, and other things have stayed the same. Most notably, the Chiefs are atop the NFL's mountain right now once again.
Yeah, 15-1, which is crazy to think about with all of those one-score games, Field. And, they wrap up the number one seed on Christmas Day, which was a vastly different Christmas Day than last year when their last loss before they went and won the Super Bowl, 21-1 since Christmas Day last year. One just amazing role for them. We look at this Chiefs team. What are you seeing from them as to why they've put together back-to-back games that Andy Reid had said from an offense-defense standpoint, it's been their most complete games this year was Houston Saturday, Pittsburgh Wednesday. Those two games, their most complete games.
Yeah, I think water eventually finds its level, so let's start there, right? Patrick Mahomes-led offense is going to be really hard to neutralize for a full 18-week and 17-game season. Moreover, I do feel like having all of the bodies in place amongst the pass catchers has allowed guys to kind of play their proper role. And I believe during the broadcast there was reference to either Matt Nagy or Andy Reid or maybe even Patrick Mahomes. I apologize for forgetting who it was that made the comment to the broadcast team about how Hollywood Brown being back allows them to utilize other players, especially Xavier Worthy, and the role that you kind of crafted for them. There was also mentioned, and again, I apologize for the exact who it was who said it, but I believe it was Matt Nagy who talked about how Xavier Worthy is it reminds him so much of Rashee Rice. So they're tapping into, right now, their most explosive offensive player in a way that reminds me of what they did with Rashee last year. A lot of short, even behind the line of scrimmage throws in which you allow the guy who has the fastest 40 in the history of the NFL to go do the damage with the football in his hands. And then the last thing, and, I know that I'm not the first person to say this, far from it, but, I think if I were to go get a football team full of 22 Joe Toonies, I'd probably win the Super Bowl every year, right? It may not be pretty, but just remarkable contributions from a college left tackle, a guy who became an all-pro guard with the Patriots, who in a pinch took center and left tackle snaps for them, and then goes to Kansas City on a big money free agent deal, and probably in retrospect was a bargain. I mean, relative to how much he has brought to that team and how much of a stabilizing force he has been. Came into the season banged up, coming off that pec injury, and I got to imagine that there are a lot of things that a coaching staff worries about through the week, but whether it's the Chiefs offensive staff or the teammates, they probably don't worry much about whether number 62 is going to do his job and hold up his end of the bargain.
Yeah, somebody put out the numbers that he's a bargain at being the 10th highest paid guard. He is the 25th highest paid tackle. So when he slid out to left tackle, it's a real bargain for him out there. Mitchell Schwartz tweeted out, and I've said this a couple of times since I saw that tweet. He and Kyle Long were talking about, what Joe Tooney is doing at left tackle and how impressive it is. And Mitchell Schwartz said, Joe Tooney has been the best left tackle on the Chiefs since they signed him. Now he's been playing left guard, but he's been the best left tackle. I wonder if, like, what we've seen from Joe Tooney these last couple of weeks, which, PFF grades have been pretty good, combined total of 4 pressures and no sacks given up these last 2 weeks for Joe Tooney against the Houston Texans and then Pittsburgh Steelers. So it was Alex Highsmith, and you had, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. going against them, 4 total pressures, no sacks. Is there a chance that this one particular guy could maybe adjust some thought process with scouts and GMs about a guy like Joe Tooney, who was a first-team All-American left tackle at North Carolina State, didn't give up a sack at left tackle, but was viewed because of arm length that he's got to play guard. He just can't play left tackle in the NFL. And how he's playing left tackle, that maybe other guys may get a chance to, if they're so technically sound and their footwork is so good that maybe they can stay at left tackle and they can be a bargain at left tackle just because they don't have the anchor weight or 6'6", 340.
What a great question, Jason. And it's so – I'm not just saying that. I mean it. And it's so timely. And I know this is not something that you or any Chiefs fan out there listening will have to worry about. But there are 2 tackles in this year's draft class that I believe stand above the rest when you combine not just performance but also health. Will Campbell from LSU and Kelvin Banks from Texas. You can reverse the order. I think this is – it's kind of nitpicking to say that one is decidedly better or worse than the other. But – one of the pieces of feedback in my film study and my research on these players engaging teams around the NFL is, is either of these guys the conventional left tackle because of the dimensions that you're referring to? So I think we'll get almost a test of what you are positing very, very soon. As you and I both know, every team at the top of the draft order usually needs one of 2 things, if not both, offensive linemen and quarterbacks. As things presently stand right now, the Patriots have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. They won't be taking a quarterback, but they do have significant offensive line needs. I don't think either of those players is going to be viewed as a number 1 overall pick, but they're going to go, in my opinion, very clearly in the first 7 or 8 picks. And we'll see, because every time I watch these guys, Jason, I've always thought to myself, these guys look to me like NFL left tackles. But if a first-team All-American left tackle, which Joe Thuney was, as you noted, without ever allowing a sack in his senior season, can't be viewed as a left tackle, then, there's obviously more to it than just what the tape says. It's going to be how long their arms are once we get to the combine and exactly how tall they are, things that can be differentiating factors. So my guess is that we're starting to see teams make concessions on pass rushers. We're starting to see different shapes and sizes for pass rushers. I think that might be coming to the offensive line at some point as well, because we are seeing some guys who don't fit the exact mold of what you think of. I'll give you an example, kind of going the other way, like Mekhi Becton, who's now a guard for the Eagles. This guy was an offensive tackle, and he was an oversized offensive tackle
pick,
for
right?
the Jets, right? It was
top 15,
and I think he was 11th. It was just before Tristan Wirfs at 14th,
that's right.
And the Jets.
That's right.
Yep. So the Jets kind of, they in retrospect wish they had, gone the other direction. But Becton, like if you saw him, you'd think he would, be if he's a guard, he's a nose guard, a defensive lineman. But now, so we're seeing. I think that you're onto something there. Like we have thresholds in scouting for a reason. There's a lot of historical evidence that suggests if you meet them, you have a better chance of succeeding. But you got to be open, nimble, and dynamic, and I do think that Joe Thuney is a good example of that.
Yeah, the arms are pretty short, and being 6'5", 300 is not exactly a tackle in the NFL with shorter arms. Because if you've got a longer arm bull rusher, he's going to be able to get into your chest, and then do you have the anchor to stop him? It seems like that guy would get plowed over. But Joe Thuney's just been so good and technically sound that he's been a huge difference maker for this team at left tackle, while also getting Hollywood back. Some of those things have been really good. As far as like other teams around the league, you mentioned the Patriots right now have the number 1 pick. They're playing at home against the Bills, who are resting their players because they already have the number 2 no matter what, and they will play next weekend. Are the Patriots going to be sitting their guys like Drake May so that they can get – how important would it be for the Patriots in this organization, who already have a quarterback, to get the number 1 pick and be able to trade what it would take with another team to get up to number 1 to take Ward or Shadur Sanders and pick up all of those extra picks for the Patriots, as opposed to winning a meaningless game in Week 18 to get your 4th win and maybe sliding back to number 5?
Jason, to me, this is as cut and dry as what I think the Chiefs will do this upcoming weekend, which is you might see the starters for a little bit. We have seen Andy Reid go down that path in the past in a similar circumstance, whether it's the number 1 seed being clinched or the seed being locked into, regardless of whether it was 1 or somewhere lower than that. What would be this is a question I would want to know from those who think the Patriots should go full throttle. Why? What's the strong argument for it? It's fun for a day. Maybe it was cool yesterday. The Giants had a celebratory locker room yesterday. That's nice. What's not nice is having to potentially trade a lot of picks to get up from 4, which is where the Giants are right now, to 1 or 2. And this isn't the same year as last year's draft class by any means, but the Giants had a 6th pick. And as we know from Hard Knocks, they happen to call the Patriots, and they try to get up into pick number 3, ostensibly to select Drake May, who they thought would be there at number 3. And I think I'd argue, based off what I've seen from him, and it's far from perfect, that they'd be in a lot better spot with Drake May right now than the question mark they have at quarterback, even with the brilliance of Malik Neighbors. But the point is that the Patriots have the opportunity to go into the offseason with the most cap space in the entire NFL, by a lot, by the way, which is a reflection of how bad the roster is. They don't have a lot of guys that have been worth paying, but still, in terms of resources available to acquire guys who may become available, whether it's a T. Higgins type player, et cetera, they could have that and the number 1 pick in the draft that basically would be the number 1 pick with a big for sale sign around it, because the logical thing to do would be to move down from number 1 and try to turn number 1 into, even if it's not the Trey Lance type offer or the Bryce Young type offer, if you're the Patriots, what would be more valuable? Pick 1 or pick 4 plus 36 plus whatever, 75 or something, right? I'd rather have those 3 picks than that 1 pick personally.
Absolutely. And we'll see what if the Patriots have a Pyrrhic victory this weekend and could set them back. I would love for the Titans to get the number 1 pick, because the Chiefs have that 3rd rounder from the Titans for L'Jarius Sneed, so that would be great.
Oh my gosh!
Get the number 1 pick in the 3rd round.
Master stroke trade. I tell you what, master stroke. We spent plenty of time talking about the brilliance of the Chiefs front office, but those are the kind of moves that I just don't think people understand. Like, if I'm trading away a premium player, or if I'm the team trading for a premium player for Kansas City, I get nervous. What do they know that I don't, right? And Tyreek Hill has been very productive, or was very productive in his first 2 seasons with the Dolphins. This one has been a productive but less productive year, right? And, like, if you're Kansas City, I mean, like, the way you reallocate – first of all, you've won back-to-back Super Bowls without him. You've reallocated the assets into very meaningful players. Was it McDuffie or Karlaftis who they got with the? Maybe it was neither that they got with one of the one of the Tyreek Hill.
Well, it was McDuffie. They traded up. They used another pick elsewhere to trade up to get McDuffie. They also used the next year's pick that they had from Tyreek Hill to package to go up and get Rashee Rice.
Yeah, so football is much more of like a puzzle building exercise than it is a formula. And the Chiefs just, it's a couple of master strokes there. L'Jarius Sneed's hardly played, and it might be pick 67 or something that they get in exchange for him, which with the Chiefs' track record, I mean, that's basically an extra second-round pick, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because, they'll be picking, hopefully, last in the 3rd round.
64,
and then whatever the, comp picks come in, and then that pick after that. Field Yates is our guest. Last one for you, just sort of, it crossed my mind as we were talking a little bit about the draft there, and I know we got the playoffs coming up, but for the Chiefs, I mean, just sitting back and watching and seeing how this 1 through 7 or 3, 5, 6, 7 ends up for the Chiefs. But the 4 rookies that surpassed 1,000 yards this year, you had Bowers, and then the 3 receivers, Neighbors, Thomas, and McConkey. You had pick 6, pick 13, pick 23, and pick 34 in wide receivers that went over 1,000 yards. Is there anything to that? Like, do we see a point to where maybe there's a bubble with wide receivers that if I'm going to take somebody at number 6, is it worth it to take him at number 6 if there's maybe somebody else in the 20s or the teens or maybe in the 30s in a Ladd McConkey? Or we're seeing so many skilled wide receivers that maybe it starts to push them down the draft unless there's like a Jamar Chase or, Neighbor's skill set and Marvin Harrison Jr. and what they were, or Brock Bowers, who has proven to be worth the 13th pick in the draft as a tight end. Are we seeing so many good wide receivers come into the league and at different points in the draft, Nakua 2 years ago, that maybe it's not worth the 1st-round draft pick on a wide receiver?
The reason why I'm not convinced that we're there yet is twofold. One, the number is growing, but it's still not at the point that every team's got them, right?
Yeah.
Like, sitting here watching teams that just have nothing at wide receiver, and it's really, it's hard to fathom.
I mean, the Patriots took Polk in the 2nd round, and
that has
there
we
been
go.
good.
Let's go right back to the Patriots, right? Yeah, I mean, look at the guys that they have. Drake May's top receiver right now is, I guess, Pop Douglas, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
The point is that, there are still teams that are very much in need of a number 1 wide receiver. The Saints, without Chris Olave, are a good example of that right now as well. There are a few others. The second one is you can have multiple on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And so, it's not like you're limited to, you can only really have one, or I mean, you can have more than one, but only one quarterback's playing per game, right? Ask the Atlanta Falcons about that. So I don't think we've got quite to that point yet. I try to track the roots of it because you're right. It is just a ridiculous time right now. It's the golden era, perhaps, of pass catchers. And 4 rookie reached 1,000 receiving yards this year, which has never happened before. The last thing that I'll say about this, I said 2, I actually meant 3. It's not a great class this year relative to where things were last year in terms of the top end talent. We do have some very, very talented players, and Travis Hunter and Cedero McMillan, and of course local product Luther Burden. But beyond that, this is not like the Brian Thomas Jr. There was not a lot of talk of him as like, hey, this guy needs to be wide receiver 1. Which I think if we redrafted the 2024 class, it's probably Malik Neighbors still, but it's a debate between he and his teammate. Brian Thomas Jr. in this year's class, like, there's no way he's fallen to pick number 17. He might be like the 7th pick off the board. And by the way, that's using the college film. That's not using the NFL stuff that we've seen this year, just because this class is not the same as last year's class.
If you're guessing right now, who's the 4 and the 5 seed? Who's the 5 and the 6 seed this weekend? Is it Pittsburgh, L.A., or is it L.A. the number 5 seed, Pittsburgh the 6 seed? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going L.A. 5. I think they're winning. I feel good about that one, right? I mean, I feel good about them and the Raiders.
Yep.
And then I think the Steelers at 6, because I just think the Bengals, I understand that they still need a lot to go their way. But Saturday night, it's basically a playoff game for Cincinnati. And Pittsburgh, man, they just it felt like the Chiefs kind of sucked the will out of them. And I don't know how much, and I can't begrudge you if you weren't, you were paying attention to some of the comments after the game from the Pittsburgh locker room. It's Christmas and you're covering the Chiefs, but man, it feels like they've got some family business they've got to figure out. I mean, it felt like the guys all wanted to call a player out on defense, and no one actually went on the record about who it was. But for those that maybe have missed it, there were some comments to the effect that, it's hard when you've got kind of 10 guys doing their job one way and then one player kind of going a different direction. So, it feels like there's some chemistry issues right now on the defensive side of the ball for Pittsburgh. So give me Cincinnati, who they can't stop anybody, obviously, but, they can score with pretty much anybody in the NFL.
Absolutely. Field Yates. Field, have a happy new year, sir, and we will talk next week, getting ready for Super Wild Card Week, and thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Right back to you. Talk to you next year, Jason.
Yes, there you go. I love it. Field Yates, our guest here on this Monday edition of the show. As we'll take a timeout, we'll come back. We will hear from Andy Reid this hour, getting ready for the Denver Broncos and what it will look like for the Chiefs and who will be playing this weekend or who will not be playing this weekend. If everybody will just simply, well, not everybody can sit, but if the main guys we've talked about will simply sit, will it be like a preseason game where they go out and get a series or two? We'll find out. That comes up next. I don't know what different guys o'clock, we've got Music City Bowl coverage starting right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Mizzou and Iowa kicking off an hour from now. Let's hear from Andy Reid and his Monday press conference. Andy at the podium with his opening statement.
All right. Can you hear me?
We got you, Coach. Go ahead.
All right. I don't really have a whole lot for you today. The players have been off, so they'll be coming back in tomorrow, and I'll be able to talk to them about play times and all those things and how we're going to go about it. But for right now, I'm not going to address that today until I have a chance to talk to the team. And as far as the injuries go, we're really looking halfway decent here in that area. Not a lot to report to you from the last game, so everything's kind of status quo right now. Anyways, with that, time's yours.
So there we go. With, as I said, we'll probably maybe find out who's going to be playing or not playing this weekend. And Andy Reid, after playing on Christmas Day, hasn't talked to the team yet about what they may do, may not do. They're still figuring it out if they're going to play these guys or not.
Yeah.
They'll get to it eventually. They don't have to play till Sunday. Why is everybody
figure it out?
You're not from Russia. Why are you Russian? All right, chill, calm down. All right, just take a step back. All right, take your time, man.
Well, I saw you in the bathroom in European.
That's what. No, not earlier. But so yeah, I guess we'll find out on Wednesday. Oh wait, no, New Year's Day.
He knew what he was doing.
All right, Adam Teicher was first in line. Asked Andy Reid what he's learned about when to rest players heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, when I first became a head coach, and first time I had a chance to get in the playoffs, I've learned some things since then. I know that you've got to keep yourself relative with practices and make sure that you stay sharp, and you don't want to get too far away from it in the playoffs because, everything gets a little bit faster in the playoffs every level that you go up. So you've got to make sure that and it's single elimination. You have to make sure your game's at the peak each time you play.
Okay, and also seems like that 3-game and 11-day stretch was really tough on the players. What kind of toll do you feel like that took, and does that factor into your decision here as well?
Well, they were able to get some rest, which I thought was important. Yes, that's not. I'm not recommending that you do that every year. So, but I don't think down the road, I think we'll be okay from it because of the rest that we gained here. So, and that we also have the bye coming up where, there's a chance the guys get a day or two off. So
there's a chance. Yeah. Don't think you're getting a day off or two right now. There's a chance. He may give you a day off along the way. But it is interesting when he said that, asked about what you've learned over the years in resting players, that you have to make sure you stay sharp. Everything gets faster in the playoffs. You got to make sure you're close to that level, even when you're not playing, that your game is at the peak each round that you're playing in. And yeah, that's the whole rest versus rust. And it may not be rust. It may just be the Chiefs aren't playing this weekend. The Houston Texans, well, they're the 4th seed, but Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Chargers, they're all playing this weekend for playoff seeding. And they'll be playing next weekend for their season lives. And then the Chiefs will play Pittsburgh or Baltimore or the Chargers or the Texans in the divisional round, who have just played the last 2 weeks with playoff implications, and the Chiefs hadn't played in a serious game since Christmas, and now it's the divisional round and everything is heightened. Yeah. So it's not necessarily rust. It's about going out there and not matching the intensity and the speed and the quickness that the other team has been playing with the last 3 weeks.
Saban was on, I think it was McAfee. He was talking because it's kind of similar to bowl, time between
Spend
last
a month
game
off.
and bowl game.
Yeah.
And he was saying the hardest thing is the tackling because you spend that's what training camp's for. It's getting the body ready for all the impact and the hits that you're going to take. And then also to throw on top of it, it's pretty cold outside, so those hits don't feel great to begin with.
It's interesting. Yeah. Last year they were able to rest some people before they played the Miami Dolphins. And that certainly was a big factor of being able to go out there and play the way they did against Miami and then Buffalo and then Baltimore. Jesse Newell asked Andy Reid how DJ Humphries is doing with his hamstring.
You know what? He's doing good. Jesse, I can't make you any promise. I want to get him out to practice and kind of see where we're at. So, but he is doing good in his rehab part. That's different than being on the field. So I'd like to just see how he does there.
Great. And obviously the last couple of weeks you've had Joe Thuney in there. You've complimented him on being in there. But in an ideal world, is it getting Thuney back to left guard and having a different left tackle? Or are you content to have Joe, play this string out of left tackle?
Yeah, I'm going to play it kind of by ear as we go here. I've been, happy with Caliendo and how he's played. I've been happy with Joe, how he's played. I appreciate them jumping in and keeping the level of play up. So, and I'm curious to see, if where DJ's at and if he can do anything. So, I mean, I just want to see where we're at, and I'll evaluate that as we go down the stretch here,
When he said, I can't make any promises, kind of felt like, yeah, he's close and he might play this weekend against the Denver Broncos. I want to see him out at practice. The rehab, he's doing good in his rehab, but, got to get him out there at practice and see. But I'm not going to make any promises as to what's going to happen. And then Joe Thuney just play it by ear.
Yeah.
They'll see. Because obviously if DJ Humphries can't go, the decision is made. If he can go, now you do have a decision to make. Humphries at left tackle, Thuney at left guard, or Thuney at left tackle and Caliendo there at left guard, and Humphries ready to step in if anything happens. Matt Derrick, next in line, asked Andy Reid about the long-term injuries to Rashee Rice, McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, and Jalen Watson possibly being available in the postseason.
There's a chance with McCole and potentially Watson. I mean, potentially, that would be stretching it, though, I think. But the other two, no.
And, obviously the Broncos are going to be playing for a playoff spot, but there's the potential that you've got 3 teams from the AFC West that would be in the playoffs. What have you just seen from the competition this year and the improvement in this division?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's the level of this division is, I think, incredible. We've got really all 4 teams playing hard and aggressive football and good, solid football. I know the Raiders are not in. I get that, but I know the other 2 are as deserving as anybody to be in the playoffs, and it's good to see that. I think that this is all about competition. We're in it for the competition, and both Denver and the Chargers are, they're both really good football teams.
So, they've been good, and this division has been good, and I think the division is going to be good moving forward with the quarterback play of Bo Nix and Justin Herbert and the coaching of Harbaugh and Sean Payton. And thankfully, the Raiders have won some games along the way, and they're not sitting in the top 5 right now, and certainly not the number 1 pick right now. So that is good. So,
but it does go to show you, at least I think so, how important coaching really is.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the right head coach and you let them build and give them time. Again, for Harbaugh, it was immediately. But for Sean Payton, you give him a couple years, even with the debacle that was the Russell Wilson contract, you're seeing what Denver can do this year. Again, if you stick with a head coach, and he is a good Kevin O'Connell, same thing in Minnesota. Again, you don't always have this immediate success like Harbaugh, but again, I think there's 3 phenomenal coaches in the AFC West right now, which is really going to show you the power of the head coach.
Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, McCole Hardman, Jalen Watson. Andy Reid saying there's a chance with McCole and potentially Watson, potentially That would be stretching it, though.
Yeah.
Potentially Watson. He did put out a video on IG of him running, sprinting, working out, which got a lot of people excited. So
Was
potentially
Justin Ross running up a hill yet, or
no, it's not. But he said the other guys no. Rashee Rice done for the year. Sky Moore is put on the IR with the core muscle injury. He is done for the year as well. We are done for this segment. We'll come back and we'll hear a few more from Andy Reid. One more segment to go as we hand it off to some college football at 1 o'clock. More Zone next. less than an hour. Our coverage starting at 1 o'clock right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We talked about the injuries there. Andy Reid talking today, not letting us know if guys will play or won't play. He continued in his press conference. Pete Sweeney asked Andy Reid how they'll spend time possibly scouting would-be playoff opponents.
Yeah, well, we're focused on Denver right now and making sure we've got a good game plan together for them. There'll be a time when we look at the other group. We'll have time to do that. But right now we're preparing for Denver. We'll hit all that other stuff later here, another day.
And you said you'd announce the play time as we go. But regardless, just curious on Carson, what you've seen in the past year and your thoughts on him being a potential starter in this league, maybe in 25.
Yeah, listen, I'm one of his biggest fans, so I liked him coming out. I liked what he did before he was banged up there in Philly. And I liked what I saw last year from him for sure. So with his start with the Rams. So I like what I've seen here, which is, I'm glad I've had the opportunity to see him here. Selfishly, I'd like to keep him, but I don't think that's going to be possible. He should be starting in the league somewhere. That's what he should be doing by his ability and the way he goes about his business. He's so structured and disciplined that his study habits, his work, all those things are just top notch. So
he's talked highly about Carson Wentz, and so has Patrick Mahomes. Spoken very highly about Carson Wentz. So we'll see if he plays this weekend.
But by the way,
or how much he plays, or if he starts.
Andy Reid has gotten some backup quarterback starting jobs. I mean, Nick Foles is the one that comes to mind. Nick Foles' career was basically done. Then he came to Kansas City with Andy Reid, revitalized it, and then he had a whole second career, obviously culminating with that Super Bowl victory and with the Eagles of all teams. But if you're Carson Wentz, you have an opportunity here.
Yeah, go out and win. Go out and play well. Todd Lebo, I've heard of that guy. He asked if he got an explanation on Xavier Worthy's celebration penalty.
I guess it's pulling your shirt up to show a weapon or something. I don't know. I don't really know about all of that. I know they were like shoveling snow and doing that or whatever. So I don't know where the other part came in. I don't know that.
And
the officials obviously though were coached up on that, so they didn't hesitate on it.
And you guys, generally speaking, when you've had these games in the past, you're choosing your playing time. Maybe the other team, it's not as important for them. What's the fact that the Broncos are playing for everything? Does that change anything that you guys do, or you just handle your business the way it's best for your squad?
No, we're gonna do what we have to do, or will do. I mean, and then, but most of all, we want to play well. That's what we want to do against a good football team.
Todd Lebo want to get to the bottom of it.
That was odd. That was weird. Just out of that in that.
Yeah, that
Zoom.
was in the clip there at the end.
So weird. Why did Todd include
Lebo.
that in the clip? That's odd. It is an interesting point by Todd. Like the last couple of times the Chiefs have rested their players, they've gone up against a team that also was not playing for anything. They're now resting players, and the other team is playing a playoff game. You win, you're in. Denver wins, they are in the playoffs, just playing a playoff game. But he said, we're going to do what we have to do, but also we want to win. Did not get an explanation on the celebration penalty. They were shoveling snow or putting stuff into Santa's bag or whatever, but lifted up his shirt is what he talked about.
You always got to be packing when you're shoveling snow.
That's right. He was packing the Santa's bag.
Oh,
and
you're
he was
right.
packing heat. Or he had the tattoo for his mom, and he pulled it up to show the camera the tattoo for his mom.
But am I wrong that that's always been a penalty once you lift that up, your shirt? I thought that was always a penalty. Because remember, you had
it happened after. It's the response by the players to the no gun first down, then the response by the refs is what happened on Christmas Day.
Yes, because it was we saw the gun celebration which eventually got the refs to then, hold on, this is going to be a penalty now, because it wasn't at first. We saw the celebration, and then it became an emphasis, and then it became okay, well, now we're even going to penalize that as well. Nick Jacobs asked Andy Reid about Isaiah Pacheco's rib injury.
Yeah, he'll be available playoff-wise. Yeah, he is tender. I probably should have mentioned that, but he is tender. And we'll just I'll probably hold him back here this week in practice just a bit, so he can be fresh and ready to go. Yeah.
And then I know you're focused on Denver, but kind of looking ahead to the playoffs, what benefit is it that you guys will have more than likely played every other AFC playoff opponent throughout the season and have kind of a feel for them?
Yeah, well, as you know, Nick, that goes both ways, right? So they'll be familiar with us too. So it does, you get to this level, it's single elimination. There's so much parity going on, and you've got to, you got to play your best football. I mean, that's really the deal. And it doesn't matter which one of the teams. I mean, they're all good, and you've got to make sure you play well. So that'll be our main focus on playing well and making sure we're sharp, and then we'll dig in here on these different scenarios that go on. You guys are probably more familiar with those right now than I am, but it's we'll dig in on whoever. It's not just one team. You've got a group of teams you're going to have to look at and study. But for right now, Denver's got our attention, and so that's kind of where we're at right this minute.
Isaiah Pacheco is tender right now, but he will not play against the Broncos, so he'll be fresh for the playoffs. And he said there'll be a time when they can see these group of teams that they'll play. Saturday night, they'll have a pretty good idea that Baltimore will not be a team that they will play in the divisional round, because they'll knock off the Cleveland Browns on Saturday afternoon, which will mean it's just Pittsburgh, Houston, and the Chargers, essentially, that the Chiefs will play in the divisional round. You can focus on all three of those teams that you would have played a total of 4 times. 2 of them you just got through playing, in the last 9 days, and another one you've played twice this year. So familiar with them. And as Andy Reid said, it goes both ways. They are familiar with you, but only 2 of those teams are familiar with the Chiefs with a good left tackle and Hollywood Brown playing. I don't think any of the teams in the playoffs are familiar with the Chiefs with the full array of the Hollywood and Xavier Worthy plays that I think the Chiefs have been planning to use this year, that they haven't really deployed out there on the field yet.
They are peaking at the right time. Mm-hmm. Offense, defense, maybe not special teams, but offense and defense. They are a dangerous team right now.
Yep, right now. Mizzou, win, lose, what's it mean?
Win, lose, we still booze, but give me the Tigers in this one. Okay. Iowa can't score.
I'll take the under of 40.
Me as well.
I like the under. The under's a good play.
It means it's going to be 30-27. We'll see. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
MIZ.